Let's go. Let's go, guys. We are here to give you the LCS 2020 Summer Split Power Rankings. So let's see how it's all going to pan out. And we're going to see who's right and wrong and all that great jazz. So in this fine, very moment, I am going to share the stream and we're going to have some fun. So yeah, as you guys know, the LCS is a great region full of the proudest and most powerful NA players to have ever have existed in this entire realm of life. And yeah, let me just share the stream really quickly. Come say hi. I'm live. Let's talk LCS. Let's do it. Oh my god. What was it? Someone made me an admin in a League Esports Facebook group. I was like, oh, thank you.
Yeah, they didn't realize that you knew nothing about League, so that's worth it.
What are you talking about?
I'm done. Hello?
What are you talking about?
How's it going, man?
I hate you.
How's this going down?
How's it going down? Meet me at the club. It's going down. I forgot you didn't listen to rap back in the day. You were all
yo.
Oh my god. I forgot you didn't listen to freaking rap at all. You were just like shuttered in.
Okay,
like,
if you literally didn't listen to rap until like 2 years ago when you met Jimmy, I don't want.
What are you talking about? I listened to rap my whole life. What are you talking about?
Okay, if I want to point out songs that every time this song comes out from the 90s is like Mariah Carey, Don't Even Act With Me.
What are you talking about? I used to watch BT like 6 o'clock every single day. What are you talking about?
I don't care. I don't care what you say.
Oh my lord, you're crazy.
All right, so how's this? How do you want to do this? Do you want like
I don't know.
What's our ranking? Should we like you say your 10th and I say my 10th? Is that how it's gonna happen?
Last night I just had everyone read their list and they would just discuss it overall. But
that sounds stupid.
Yeah, but you know you're not the host, so you don't get to choose.
I get to do whatever I want.
Oh yeah. Yeah, like you saw. What is this? Some sort of democracy?
It is.
Break?
Your channel is on my email.
That you know that would make it. You know, I guess you do get to decide. I guess. All right. So let me post it here. One more group and on Twitter, and then I'll be good to go. Come say hi.
Boyfriend, I see that.
All right. What else is there? All these platforms are crazy. So I don't know. The LCS is I don't know. A lot of people have been saying it's been getting pretty boring. So
I mean, really, realistically, as the game has progressed into like a faster paced meta, like NA is the only region. Even China kind of somewhat was faster paced. I'm not China. Korea was somewhat faster paced, even though they just weren't good at it. Like NA is literally still playing at a slow pace, and there's like one team that knows how to play slightly faster. Two teams that play faster paced, and that's TSM and Cloud9. Somewhat fast paced teams, but at the same time, Cloud9 is still a reactionary based team. Like I can understand completely as to why people are not very hyped on watching like
LCS anymore.
Yeah, the LCS genuinely out of all the regions is probably the least volatile. It's kind of standard play, and there's not much like a room for the worst teams to beat the better teams because again, it's just they're not
nothing's growing.
They're experimenting. None of the teams have the players to be like the lower teams don't have any positives to them. Like there's just genuinely a lot of teams in this region that don't have anything to build off of in the future. Like
this is sad. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's the worst thing ever. Again, I think there's a lot of solid players coming into the scene. I was slightly impressed. I mean, Johnson is looking like one of the best players we've produced in a very long time since Licorice. Like it's impressive to me. I mean, maybe not a long time. I guess Licorice isn't that old, but.
Jeez.
Thank you.
I don't know,
man.
Wait, what? Oh no, I was laughing at a joke. I don't know. A lot of people have been talking about how the LCS has been getting boring because like it's a production quality. Like the LEC like you notice all their videos are like their own unique style, but like the LCS is like just the same standard thing. Like after a while, it does get kind of boring.
My
like
big thing about it, I'm like, I don't really care. I don't care for anything that the LEC does. I don't like their production because it's just not interesting to me. None of the personalities are my taste. And I do actually like some of the personalities on NA, a very small amount, but I mean, there are some of them. But I think at this point in time, I think it's become, again, it's a culturally accepted. LEC is more, I think there's probably more viewers in it, to be completely honest. And that's,
now they are.
Well, they always, I mean, they've mostly been. I mean, the people that watch NA, a very large amount of EU people watch NA and EU, but only a small amount of people from NA both watch EU too. Like, I think.
Yeah. There's more people. There's more people that watch EU from North. There's more people that will watch NA that are from EU, and it's not vice versa. There's not many people that are from NA that watch EU. That's kind of weird.
Well, it's first of all the popularity thing about America and all that stuff. I'm assuming that has something to do with it. On top of the fact, like, I don't know. I don't see a reason as to why, because I think the amount of people that watch that are NA born are just it's not as large a number. It's not as
It's really crazy though. EU got pretty mad they couldn't actually watch NA too when they changed it to Monday Night League. A lot of the EU fans were like, "Yeah, we can't watch NA now because the time change," and that also had to do with it a lot too. Them changing Monday Night League and putting it so late that EU couldn't watch probably also hurt the viewership numbers. That's why they switched it from Monday to Friday. But like they actually did do that though, which was pretty interesting, all things to considered. But somebody was like, I don't like the online format. It's like, what do you want? You can't just not. I don't know. Like people just want to complain about everything in existence.
You got to make the best of what you have going on right now. They can't have.
They can't just stop the LCS
real life games, and if they don't do online ones, there's just no games going on. It's something no one likes. I don't like the online format either, but that's the best they can do right now. And that's just something we're gonna have to accept until we get back to the point where we're able to focus fully on, or we're able to get back into the groove of playing in real life again. Yeah.
I mean, that's pretty much it. I mean, like looking at the other things that you could possibly do. There's so many different things that they could do. I just think that you have to look at it from their perspective too. The coronavirus hit, and obviously they had to do an online format. People have been criticizing the production, as it's called, like boring. They said, "Why is the LCS trying to be like ESPN?" I mean, yeah, ESPN works for traditional sports, but this is like esports. It's its own thing, though. Like, people got to factor in, you can take things from traditional sports, but you also have to make it unique. The LCS is not trying to be unique. They're trying to be like something else that's already a proven, done product for a specific amount of people, you know?
And are you saying these specific amount of people don't exist in the, what's it called, scene? The reason that ESPN works so well, which it doesn't anymore, it has not been successful anytime recently. But the reason it did work well is because the personalities they brought on, they introduced a lot of cool segments. I mean, just throwing in a bunch of like kind of jokey little things that EU does, I don't find it interesting in the slightest. I find some of the things they do with the Deficio pretty interesting, but that's really the limitation on the stuff that I actually watch in my free time for like the non-actual games, LCS, LEC, because I'm not a fan of the humor, I guess. I don't know. But at the same time,
Medic.
I'm not too much into that. But at the same time, I can see they put more effort at the very least than NA does. NA does not put as much effort into these things as EU does. I'm like, EU genuinely seems like they're putting resources into it and all that stuff, and they're making at the very, even if they're not good ideas, they are good ideas for a lot of people, even if they weren't. At the very least, they're making attempts to make something interesting happen, which NA just genuinely doesn't do. Like,
well, it comes from
NA had like this or that. Like that was it. That was like the most unique thing they made, and that just stopped because they got rid of one
Captain Flowers.
Yeah.
For like their YouTube videos, what I've learned is like you have to justify the amount of clicks and views it's actually going to get, and since YouTube is all about watch time, you have to thoroughly justify when someone has a video idea and they want to do it, it has to be justified in like you're putting in this much money. How much money is this YouTube video going to make to cover the cost of what I've actually put in? So like those drive episodes, those things cost quite a bit of money to make. And you have to justify the money the video is going to make to justify the money going into it, if that's going to make sense to a lot of the viewers. So
I mean, it's not a complicated process, dude.
But it kind of can be when you're.
But what I'm saying is,
but it's hard because you're basing it off YouTube algorithm money, which is like you know
make their money off YouTube. That's crazy stuff.
I mean, they might. I mean, their channel has 3 million subscribers. Everyone's watching. If you put out anything else,
there are some things in the YouTube industry that get them some money. But again, at the end of the day, they're getting it pure. Like most of the money is coming from the sponsors and all that stuff, investing money into the scene.
Yeah.
At the end of like YouTube does have an impact on it, but that's not going to be their main priority for most of it. That's more so a recreational thing, and I can see why you do more jokey stuff on there. I think that's. I mean, you got anything else to say?
That's pretty much it. People were just saying the LEC just blows the LCS out of production. I mean, I can't really deny that. I mean, I like watching the LEC stuff. I mean, it's supposed to be funny. It's supposed to be funny. So you're supposed to laugh, and that's it. That's it. That's all it's for. Like, if you're not laughing, then you miss the whole point of the video. Like, if you're going in analyzing what they're doing in a video, that's just horrible.
Well, I mean, it's not. The thing about it is you have to find them funny for it to be for you to be able to be interested in it. From my opinion, like, there's nothing wrong with not finding it funny. There's nothing wrong. You have to, at the very least, admit that they're putting in a lot of effort, though. Yeah,
and they're putting in a lot of effort, and they're getting a lot of the fans' support too. Like a lot of fans didn't like it at first starting, but then they started to like it overall, and now they actually enjoy it a lot. And then I think Quickshot said that the LCS and like esports overall should not try to be like traditional sports, because traditional sports appeals to literally almost like 50-year-old men, and this is not going to appeal to a 50-year-old man. No matter how you try to, it's not going to do it.
I want to point out, like, again, I respect the idea of what you're talking about, but like I feel like you got a little sidetracked on what this was supposed to be about.
Oh, you want to talk about main stuff?
It's like. I 100% understand. Like it's a moderately interesting thing, but are you just throwing in a subject at the beginning to kind of get it started or something?
Well, you have to throw in like calm talk. You don't just go in for the main course. You got to make people work for it. Have you ever had have you ever had like a girlfriend or anything?
Oh wow, you've talked one girl successfully out of the 29 years you've been alive, and now you're trying to rub it in my face. Look at you.
Oh my god. Let's actually go into it. I'm pretty sure. Yeah. Oh, I was just like making sure I was sharing certain things, but yeah, everything is all good to go. So let me bring up the Leakpedia, and also, so something happened today too, which is just also relevant to the conversation, which is Xmithy is not starting week 1 for Immortals. Actually,
it's week 1. Who they're replacing with?
I have no clue. I just saw this right now. Immortals kicks off 2020 Summer Split without Xmithy in the starting roster.
I don't think there's much weight to put on that. I mean, unless these 2 games are going to be the difference maker between them making playoffs and not. I genuinely think, again, Xmithy is probably not being there for a life situation. That's what. I don't think it's going to have an impact on whether he plays for the rest of the season. I don't think these 2 games are going to impact whether or not they make it to the playoffs or not. So, I mean, again, it's interesting to think about. And if this guy comes in and he's a monster in like the scene, I mean, it'll make a difference. But like, I don't know.
Yeah, like I don't think it's that bad. I personally think that it's gonna be weird not seeing Xmithy play week 1. We've seen him play week 1 for years. That's going to be kind of weird, though. But, I mean, to be fair, there was some behind-the-scenes drama that they said on Reddit where he was showing up, like, drunk to practice. I don't know if that's true at all, but, I mean, he had some offers in the offseason, too. I don't think he took any of them. I think he should have, because I don't think he's going to work. I don't know why he pretty much took this team. It's because he's, like, the most, highest-paid jungler in the league. He tried to go to Immortals like it happened back in 2017 and thought that with the coaching staff and how it happened before, he could get him to finals again. And I was like, it's not the same.
Honest, I don't know if he thought anything like that. They offered him money, And realistically, the reason that Immortals gave him the
Biggest check.
the check that they gave him is probably because they're trying to grab some of the fans back that they got from the old Immortals team. And
Yeah.
again, I don't fault them for anything about that, but I don't think he picked it specifically expecting this team to work out, because even on paper, no one expected it. Like, this was just purely a cash grab for him, in my opinion. And it seems like it's really seemed to seep into his play, in my opinion, because he's not been too impressive this year. But again, I don't think he's been too impressive for the past years, so it's not.
I mean, he's not. His style is not supposed to be impressive. His style is basically a Sejuani and Jarvan bot. Is that supposed to be impressive? Like, I don't know.
Impressive. I mean,
I don't think he can. I think like
impressive easily.
You have set things you're able to do, and you're basically a team ward at that point. Like,
see, my big thing about it is people who play the jungle, like, consistently. The way the jungle works is not you're not defined by the champion. Well, again, you are defined by the champion you pick, but that's not really the big difference maker. It's how you play around the map and all that stuff that makes the difference. And it's a slow and meticulous play that Xmithy plays, and he's really like it's not transitioned well, in my opinion, into these most recent seasons, and that's why we haven't seen too much success come out of him.
I don't know. We'll have to see how it works, though. But that is it, guys. Week 1, we are getting Soaz, Potluck, Ika, Altek, and Hakuo. I mean, okay. I like seeing junglers get shots like this. Like, no one in the scene takes risks on new people. Like, you can't ever have new players if no one takes any risks on them. Can't always just recycle people. Like, this could be a really good thing. And if he plays really well, I mean, that's a good thing. I like when new players get shots. I'm not that type of person that's like, oh, why is this new person starting? Like, no, in traditional sports, if you want to use a positive from traditional sports, they always use subs, they always use backups, and it always sometimes can be really helpful. And if we don't ever use them, then how are you ever going to have a new player then? Like, you can't just constantly use the same people.
If I had to pick somebody out of the challenger scene right now, you don't pick out a lot of people who've proven in the challenger scene that they're not great. I don't think you just give them a chance just because they're challenger scene players.
I mean, you would never know that. You would never know if they're great.
Play based off the challenger scene. If they don't play well in the challenger scene, I don't give them a chance. Like, you definitely have to put emphasis on that. They don't.
So what do you want? So what do you want to do? Recycle the same old players constantly?
I mean, giving a chance to somebody who's consistently proven that they're not capable of playing in the challenger scene is not worth your time. Keep putting that player in and look for somebody who shows some sort of like potential, because the likelihood of somebody coming from the challenger scene and doing terrible or average at best, and then coming into the LCS and doing amazing is almost not. It's almost completely negligible. If they can't do well in the challenger scene, they should not get a chance. And you don't just try them out because they're on the challenger scene.
I don't know. You're never going to get a new player if you do that. You'll never get new players then.
So you want them to use Lorlo because he's on the challenger scene for Dig?
I'm not talking about. You're talking about players that are already recycled. I'm talking about a fresh new face into the scene, like Johnson. A lot of people thought that Johnson wasn't going to be good, and it turns out yes.
He played pretty well in the scene. I mean, what I'm saying is you don't take a chance. Like, I'll point out people like this stats wise. If like you look at some of the players, and then you look at the stats they have in the challenger scene, and they're one of the worst in the league, do you just kind of throw them into the LCS because they're young? Do you think that's a good idea?
I mean, you would never know if they play good in the LCS either, because we know playing on stage is different for a lot of people too. So what you're saying is never take a risk with any new player whatsoever.
Risk. Okay, so the way it happens is just think about it like basketball. People draft people, and they put them into the AAA and all that stuff. That's the baseball, but whatever it's called, the summer league teams and all that stuff. And if they don't play well in there, they don't get a chance on the roster spots. You don't give somebody a chance on the roster spots when they've proven they can't play at the lower levels. So
I would ask you, how do you get a new player in if you never give people chances?
Scout. You do get people's chances. They got their chance in the challenger. The challenger scene is a chance.
Yeah.
And if you fail at that, you failed your chance. I think you can continually get put in the challenger scene if you're good enough to be playing there. But you should not go to the LCS scene when you're not prepared for it. Because honestly, like, first of all, we saw what that did to what's his name instantly shot from like a promising young guy in the.
Talking about Mike Young.
Well, no, not Mike Young. It was the ADC that replaced what's his name during Worlds, Cody's son.
Oh, Cody's son for Rakara. I think that was too late. See, that's a different situation. You're talking about something that's way too late in the season for him to develop anything.
Again, he had a lot of game. I mean, he had a few games in the regular season and then went into Worlds. Like, I'm saying, I think that throwing somebody in there, first off, like, it's not a great idea mentality-wise, because getting destroyed is not, you can't learn anything from getting completely demolished. On top of the fact, there's absolutely nothing a player's, these are the chances they get. Like, I can understand kind of what you're saying. I mean, like, I don't see why you would choose somebody who's bottom fragging, like, to put on your regular roster, because that's going to even destroy the rest of the mentality of the rest of the team if you put a bad player on there. Like, I think that you have to take a chance with players, but you also have to do a better job at scouting, because if they don't prove themselves on the challenger scene, you should just look elsewhere. There's other players all around the world where you can look at. You don't have to look at the guy on your challenger seed to be able to do it.
I mean, what about, like, let's say 5 years from now, all these players are pretty much gone, and we have no new faces, so you're not building anything either.
I'm just saying, why do you have to look? There are people on the challenger scene you can look at. I mean, Korean Kid is new, and I've heard a lot of good things about him. I've heard a good few things about everybody.
So what if he plays one stage game and he gets destroyed? Do we just give up on him?
It's not about no, that's not what I'm saying. If he's proven himself to be able to play capably in the challenger scene, and he has a poor job at you've already seen the potential he has. You either send him back to the challenger scene to develop a little more, or consistently give him a better shot. You have to judge that based off the personality of the player.
That's the trap a lot of people fall into, because those players later on just end up in academy.
Well, so I mean, you have to do this is the job of the coach, and that's why I think it's something we can't discuss. We can't really understand.
Yeah.
Without actually talking to the players themselves. Like, specific players are going to do better in low pressure situations and develop their skills. And some players are going to do better in a high pressure, like once they, like, if they don't do poorly in high pressure situations, and even with these negative impacts on their mentality, they can still consistently bounce back. Like, some players aren't able to bounce back from that. And that's something you're going to have to take into account, but there's not something you could do without knowing the players themselves.
All right. So let's go with the list, guys. LCS 2020 Summer Split Power Rankings. So the 10th place team is going to be Immortals.
I'm going to have to disagree with that. I'm going to put CLG down there.
All right. So you want to go first or me? Probably do this.
We're gonna be talking about both the teams. There's no way they're not your 9th place teams, so we can swap around.
Mm-hmm. Who else do I have? Oh, actually, So for Immortals, right now they are throwing in a brand new jungler into week 1. So if they happen to lose both games, then that's obviously going to be a big what's that word I'm looking for? Eye opener to how strong they actually are. Last split they were not that good, and last split most people knew how to beat them. It was surprising how they had literally 3 shots to make playoffs and still didn't. That's just crazy. And also Deja Vu from 2017.
Wait, no, Pobelter is on CLG. I keep forgetting that.
And then you have Xmithy taking a break in week 1. So you have Potluck, Soaz, Aka, Altec, and Hakuo. And they're just uninspiring. They're uninspiring. Their playstyle sucks. They are actually slow. And that, I don't know how that makes any sense. Soaz is the best part about the team, and I don't know if he can sufficiently carry them. Soaz is someone where I would consider him, like, have you ever had to hammer in something at work, like a hammer and a nail? So, like, Soaz is what I would consider a nail, and he's been getting hammered his whole career. So it's very hard for me to be like, okay, can this guy actually want to be the hammer now, or he was going to start hammering people? Because last split, he was actually doing the hammering. He was actually carrying some games for them. He was on Camille and a lot of other champions just carrying the game, and I don't know if they're going to place that much resources into him. And you start with Aka. Aka was just as bad as Crown. Am I supposed to believe that Aka improved all this time? I mean,
I'm going to have to throw. I do actually want to switch around CLG and more. I am going to put Immortals at 10th because I forgot about Pobelter and all that stuff. Immortals started playing a lot worse towards the end of the split. I mean, again, they didn't rank the worst. They weren't the worst team. Like, what's what's it called wise, record wise. But again, I think the positives of this team are pretty slim. You have a pretty decent top laner at the best, like in Soaz. You have Xmithy, who's not the worst jungler in the league, and that's really like you have a bot lane again who sometimes has pretty solid games, but you have no one who is a superstar on this team, no one who is really slightly even above average, really. And you put these all together and throw Ike in the middle of it as the worst mid laner in the league, and there's just no like what they have no strengths to play around because Soaz is not a good, in my opinion, not a good solo lane threat. He's not a good temporary carry. Altec, again, he's had some good laning stats, but his team fighting is pretty, like, it's pretty minimal on how much effect he has on the team fights. He does not play that well. Like, again, the CS differential doesn't speak for as bad, like, speak.
I think he looked better than what people gave him credit for. I think he was the second best player on their team, but that's not saying a lot.
I think he was the third best. I mean, I do think Xmithy had more of an impact than him. I think Altec definitely had his games, but I don't know what happened to Hako. Hako used to be one of the best supports in the league, but he's fallen off the face of the earth. He doesn't really play like engaged supports anymore. I think Ika's the worst, no doubt about that. He's the worst mid laner in the league, and that really drags the rest of the team down because even with an average mid laner here, I think they could be a solid like 8th place, 7th place team. Like they could make playoffs next split if just like swapping out the mid laner. Like Ika's shown that he's not really capable of playing any sort of like anything. Like
can't play Zoe properly, can't play Kiana.
Like in what's it called? What is that team? In 100 Thieves, Rielma, at the very least, I don't think Rielma's good at all. I don't think Rielma's a good player, but at the very least, he plays supportive mid laners.
He carried some games too. Rielma carried some games.
He has some supportive mid lane picks that I think he can pull out, and he has carries around him to be able to play around. Ike has no carries to play around him, and he really just doesn't resort to supportive picks. I don't know if I would blame like the head coach for that. I really don't think I should, because again, there's not much like the coach could do with it, with the team thrusted at him. Like,
well, Zabotin chose Aka, so that's something there.
Okay, you know what? I'm not gonna say too much. This is like the rest of the team was trash too. Even if he got a solid middle laner, they make the playoffs maybe next split, but that's the limitation of their skill.
I just think that I like giving new players chances. So this week 1, we're going to see Potluck. I hope he does well so people can eventually have a new jungler in the LCS eventually. So if he plays well this week 1, he could have a great career ahead of him. But this is where the problem is. His great career has to be dependent on how well he does in Immortals in week 1. So yeah, that's really up in the air.
Well, you can definitely judge a player not based off his solo lanes and see whether or not he's a good player himself.
That's what I want out of it. I want him to do well, so we get a new jungler in the league, so that way we can always, at least at some point, get a new player, kind of like Johnson.
I'm not too worried about NA's junglers. I think they have an okay amount of decent ones, but I think that getting a new face in the scene is always a good idea. I think that Potluck is getting a chance, probably not based off the fact that they're trying to try him out, but it might be. I think it's probably going. There's probably something going on between Xmithy. I really don't think Potluck's going to get that second week because it sounds like they're making it seem like he's going to be coming back the second week. And if Potluck does well, maybe he does get the starting spot over him, and that'd be a great thing for the scene because again, Xmithy is not the worst jungler in the league, but he's definitely not one of the best. Replacing a pretty average jungler with a young up and coming talent would be a good idea.
And you also have, you have Apollo and Hakuo, but they, like a lot of people have said, they actually were pretty good at some point, but I did not see that this past split. Like, once Apollo took over for Altec, I did not see that same Apollo-Hakuo synergy that I saw on other teams. I did not see that. I saw them as actually a worse duo, and Apollo was the actual better player this time around, which is crazy.
I think you're giving him a little too much credit for Apollo. Like, I don't think he was that good. I think he was a pretty solid addition to the team. But at the same time, I don't think he was one of the best ADCs in the league either. I mean, there was substantially a large amount of ADCs better than him this year. I don't think at any point he was better than Wild Turtle. And I think
he was, actually.
I don't agree with that in the slightest. I don't think he's better than Kabe. He wasn't better than Bang, Johnson, like Zen.
So you're basically saying he's mid of the pack.
Yeah, I'm saying he's bottom. He's one of the bottom ADCs in the league. Yes, Cody Sun was better than him. Like that's 6 ADCs right there, in my opinion, who were better than him right off the bat. Like he's better than FBI. He's better than.
I would say he was better than Wild Turtle. Like Wild Turtle didn't show me much this split either. I mean,
Wild
he's been
Turtle
pretty much
was one of the secondary. He was definitely the secondary carry of this team. Like Ignar is a supportive carry, but it doesn't really function the same way. They definitely built comps around Wild Turtle more often than they did around Apollo. They definitely had there was no threat from the top lane for Flag West throughout the entirety of the year. Like Wild Turtle was definitely the reason they were able to win so many games, because it was not, again, Power of Evil is obviously the reason they won so many games, but you can't win games solo. And Santorin's jungle style did not translate into late game champions. He always played early game aggressive champions for the most part. So all around, I think, I mean, again, I don't see a way Apollo is better than Wild Turtle. I just even though they did win a few games with him, and I think that he still played pretty solid. I think it's one of his best years. I don't think that he played better than Wild Turtle. It's just with so little talent standing out around him, it makes him look a little bit better in comparison when he has decent games.
I don't know how they actually win a lot of games either, because there are a bunch of role players though. Like Soaz is a role player, Xmithy is a role player, even if he does come back in. Paulo and Hakuo are kind of like role players. Ike is definitely a role player. It's definitely not a carry. So, how do you win or even get to playoffs with a bunch of role players? How does that work?
Huni replacing Kumo and Evil Geniuses is very good. I don't know about that. I mean, Huni has not been impressive recently. And, again, I still think Kumo was probably the single best top laner in the Challenger scene for, 2 straight seasons. And I feel a little sad that they're giving up on him after a split. But at the same time, Kumo and Huni were some of the worst top laners in the league. So it's like replacing the 9th best top laner with the 8th best top laner. I think.
But he's not getting replaced though. Huni's going to be on Academy. So
is Huni 100% going to be on Academy?
Yes.
Okay, that's just kind of weird to me. Huni definitely has a paycheck coming his way, so it's kind of goofy to me that they're putting him on Academy.
Yeah, he's not. Huni isn't starting unless they announce it this week. And he's starting. He was confirmed to be going to the Academy team. But yes, Immortals is my 10th place team. And I just don't think they're going to be that good. And my 9th place team is actually going to be Dignitas.
That's the stupidest thing ever.
That's don't know
the stupidest thing ever.
So you have a rotate. So they're going to have a 10-man roster. And I don't know who they're going to be starting overall, but we know a few people who might be. So you have Froggen, that's fine. You have Johnson and Alphamu. Decent, okay bot lane, at best decent and okay.
Oh then my god. No.
Then you have who else is it? Viper and Lorlo as your 2 top laners you want to rotate. That's even worse. And then you have Dardoch and Acadian. So we don't even really know how they can match all their synergies together. The best part about the team is Froggen, and the second best part about it is Johnson. And Alphamu did not look good last split. No one can deny that.
You're making him sound like he was a bottom tier support. I mean,
I'm saying he was.
Okay,
he just didn't look. He just didn't look like it.
5
Zeyzal.
Zeyzal's not better than him. That's incredibly bad.
I'm saying he's bad. I'm saying it was worse.
Zeyzal is way worse than him. Yes, you're saying that. I'm saying Zeyzal. I'm saying pretty much everybody from Golden Guardians who supported. I think that you could name off Hakuo right there. I think that I could name off what is it called? I honestly think Core JJ played worse than them this split. I think that I really think that's the case. I think Core JJ played terrible this split.
I mean, the top lane situation is bad for them. You have Viper and Lorlo, and they did not look that good. And then you have Dardoch and Acadian, which is Dardoch is fine, but I don't know. So Dardoch's playstyle would not clash with Froggen's very well. I could see this just all not working. I already see the writing on the wall.
Did poorly last split, but I'll point out a few things that I think are positive about this team, because literally what you're basing it off of is the generic Dardoch has not worked out and he destroys mentalities.
It's not even Dardoch. I just don't think that Dardoch's playstyle is going to complement with Froggen's. And you have Viper, who did not look good either. And if they're going to have a 10-man roster, they have Lorlo, and Lorlo's also not good.
I'm going to actually point out by the roster, which I talked about yesterday. So first of all, Dardoch is the shot caller of every single team he's on early game. And I think the only reason he wasn't the shot caller on TSM is because consistently they forced him to gank things that he didn't actually think were proper. This is the one team that I think is the first, like TSM was the first, like team that I think he consistently didn't shot call the early game. We saw it on Optic. I think Optic had a really solid early game when he was on, and when they swapped him out for Meteos, they had more of a solid late game. What's it called? And I think that's one of the big things that I think is going to work out for this team, because they're swapping in an aggressive early game jungler who's going to attempt to make things happen in the early game. Like, even if you say he makes a few mistakes, you can't deny the fact that his presence is definitely felt in the early game. He's one of the most hyper-aggressive junglers in the league, and he always has been since he came in. He has not slowed down from that pace. I think one of the biggest problems Dignitas had was they didn't function in the early game, and passing off the mantle of shot calling in the early game from Froggen onto Dardoch is going to make a drastic change, because Acadian is not that voice. Acadian is not going to take the helm of the team from Froggen. That's just not going to happen. But Dardoch, I think, will. I think Dardoch is going to push the pace of this team. And even if he makes a lot of mistakes, which I think he's been doing recently, I think that it's not going to make as much of a negative impact as I think it's going to make a positive one. He's genuinely still on the correct picks, which he rarely got. I mean, they threw him on
S1E, Jarvan.
S1E, which he had terrible records on.
Oh, sorry. Panda Monkey. Viper didn't do well this split. Yes, that's true.
I just talked about the.
There is a delay for me on my side a little bit. That's how it works. Panda Monkey, is Golden Glue getting replaced by Demonte? Yes, that is true. We will get to Golden Guardians very soon. I have them a little bit more higher this time around, but it's not really that much though.
You had them higher?
A little bit high. No, not like that high. You
have who higher? TSM? You have them higher than you had them last split.
What are you talking about? What are you talking about?
You just said. You put them at third or second. Did you not?
TSM last split? I had them at second.
So they're going to first now?
Are you out of your mind?
You literally just said they're going to be higher.
I am. Oh my lord, guys! I try to troll him. He's like, "Oh my god, are you being serious?" Like, no. What are you talking about?
So I want to point out a few things. Again, the aggressiveness that Dardoch's going to bring, on top of the fact that I think that Viper still. I don't know anything about Viper. I'm be real with you. Like, I'm not sure about him at all.
What I'm saying is that they're going to be running a 10-man roster. Okay, so you have two top laners, Lorlo and Viper. Viper played like crap. Lorlo is crap. You have a shit top lane. Then you have Dardoch and Acadian. Dardoch is pretty okay. Then you have Acadian, who is just pretty average.
It's some of the most Dardoch has had a singular bad split in my opinion in the entirety of his career, and it gets spun in many different ways because of the attitude he's had. People want to take different perspectives on him. People like to look at Optic because he didn't start every game, that he wasn't playing pretty properly. But again, at the very least, I think that the style that he played and the way he played in those functions, what he provides for that team in that aspect, he always plays that role properly. He's always played it in a pretty insanely good way, in my opinion.
And I think they need that. But the issue here is you have Dardoch, who might actually have a resurgence in this split, which I think he might actually do. But then you have Froggen. Froggen's playstyle is not going to complement that, and neither is either Viper or Lorlo's. Lorlo, like, you have just a bunch of mixed of just two. Like, one person trying to do something, Dardoch is going to try and go for an evade, Froggen's not going to follow up on it, and then Dardoch will probably die, get looked at as bad, and then that's already going to cause problems.
I do want to point out that Dardoch's main thing is not counter jungling, though he does do that. It's mostly lane ganks. That's usually the aggressive playstyle he takes. And I think that there's literally nothing Froggen can do to stop the helm of the team being pushed to the Dardoch, because he has so much control around the map where Dardoch, even if Froggen doesn't leave, it's going to be pushed into a direction where the rest of them are going to be communicating with Dardoch because he's trying to make things happen. I think that I see kind of what you're doing. I see to an extent what you're trying to go for.
It's just Aframo has been pretty underwhelming. Yeah, he looks.
He's had a few decent games. I mean, he's not the best. He's not the best anymore.
He definitely looks better than he did at the last but 100 Thieves. I'll give him that.
That's what I'm saying. He's looked a little better recently, and I think that with a more aggressive jungler, I think he's gonna do a lot better because again, the big synergy. There's two big combos you want to have on a team. It's gonna be jungle support and jungle mid, and those are the two that you can function well with in the early game to make things happen. I think jungle mid is. Do
you really think Froggen and Dardoch can work out?
I don't think Froggen and Dardoch is going to work out. I think Froggen Aframo is going to work out. You don't have to have both. You only need to have one of those.
We saw that last split and it did not work out for them.
Who? With
Froggen and Aphromoo.
I'm talking about. I meant Aphromoo and Stupid Dardoch. I'm throwing names around.
You're throwing me off. Holy crap!
I'm throwing myself off. Apparently, the big thing about Dardoch, first of all, is that he's still hyper aggressive in the early game. I think that's going to benefit them a lot in like towards the early part of this season, especially in the early part of the season. I think they're going to do extremely well. I think towards the later half they're going to sputter out because again, at the same time, unless Viper bounces back, they're not going to have that side lane threat to be able to make it work, so they're going to be forced to team fight constantly. I don't like the one-dimensional playstyle they're going to be forced into. And I
also, their objective control, it's so bad last split.
I like, again, teams that have Dardoch have great objective control.
That's the thing. He does bring good objective control. He's always fighting for Rift Heralds and he's always getting early dragons. He had the highest early dragon rate of any jungler in the league, actually.
His introduction to this team addresses a lot of the weak points of Dignitas. Like that is something I think happens with him. I honestly think that this Dignitas team is like probably 3 times better than they were last split, just based off these changes.
Do you guys think TSM is going to do good in the summer split? We are about to head to TSM in a little bit, so you better stick around for that. This conversation
they were my number 8, so we're right now.
This conversation is very intense. No, this happens like literally every single time you get in the car. Literally, he'll be like, "Hey man, Piglet, he was better than Doublelift back in 2015, but no one ever saw it except for me. I had the biggest, 5 head."
So what's going on right now is I have conversations with him. And then he kind of throws in there, by the way, you're stupid and I hate Piglet. And I'm just trying to I defend myself. I'm the victim here. And
I'm like the victim here. I'm like, this C9 team is crushing that TSM 2016 summer team. Not even close. And he's like, I love Bjergsen so much that I can't get over him. And I
will point out right now that if that team went head-to-head, not only would they lose in a fist fight, they would lose on the Rift too. There's literally, in no aspect of life will that team beat TSM. I'm sorry.
I am pretty sure C9 will beat that TSM 3-0. All the games go 25 minutes. They are getting crushed. That TSM game's getting just fisted.
You're so you say things that I'm going to disagree with. You say it like this, and I'm just trying. We're in a video right now. I'm trying to not say stuff extremely bad.
Oh my god! But no, he actually believes that TSM team could have been He believes that TSM team from 2016 summer with Biofrost could have made top 4 at Worlds. To be fair, if they actually made it out of the group with Samsung Galaxy. That TSM team, do you know who they faced? Do you know why I know they're not getting out to top 4? Because they're facing SKT.
They do face SKT. Yeah, oh, you're right.
I try to never tell them this. I was like, you think Doublelift's gonna beat fucking who they have at that point?
They would not beat SKT that year. You're right.
Yeah, because RNG had to face SKT because they got the lower seed. They would have to have gotten first seed. But yeah. Oh god, Doublelift and the Victor thing. Holy crap. Do you guys have Insta that I can follow? You already follow me on Instagram actually. So you already have me. All right, but yeah, guys, that is my 9th place team. I just don't see this working out. Yeah, you have all these ideas that can work, and the only good thing you're telling me is Dardoch has good objective control, which I agree with, and Froggen.
Okay, you're aggravating me because I literally just addressed 3 of the biggest problems was they're slow paced because they have Froggen, which is going to transition into a faster paced early game because they add Dardoch. They have no objective control, which literally happens now they have Dardoch because Dardoch contests everything on the planet. You have more ganks happening in the early game and the ability for Aphromoo to roam around the map more consistently, which I think has been the biggest problem with his career recently. He hasn't had a strong jungler around him, which has forced him into a situation where he consistently has to stay bot. And laning, again, he's been pretty strong laning in his career in the past, but it's never been his biggest point. Like, I think that with the addition of all these things, I think it's reasonable to say they do better this split because, again, none of the rest of the other teams got any. They didn't improve, really.
So who is your 9th place team?
My 9th place team, let me see right now. My 9th place team is going to be, who was I looking at? I could point him out.
You can say CLG?
I'm going to say CLG. I mean, I think that Pobelter was an incredibly good addition to this team. I think it's something that I think has made a positive impact on this team because he really is genuinely a good shot caller in terms of just 4 bad teams. He's a good bad team shot caller. He's not a good team anything. Pobelter just genuinely adds. I really like Pobelter as a person. I don't want to insult him too poorly because I do think I genuinely enjoy like hearing him talk and stuff. But at the same time, I think if you want to be a competitive team, if you want to have something, and Pobelter is the single best player on your team, you are not in good shape. Like there's absolutely nothing I can see. Like this team, first of all, they steal. Like who is their top laner? Just tell me right now. I want you to say it. Yeah, who is their jungler right now?
Wiggly.
Who is their ADC?
Stixay.
And all three of these people, in my opinion, were bottom 3 at their positions. And who is their mid laner too? Actually, no, Crown got replaced. Pobelter is. But still, 3 of the bottom 3.
I have arguments for CLG being 8th place, guys, but that's still not impressive. Moving 10th to 8th is really not that impressive, honestly.
Yeah, I agree. Like Smoothie, again, I think he's played pretty average. I think he's not bad. That's one of the things. I think he'd look better on a better team, but at the same time, like there's not an impressive aspect to this team that I would say, hey man, this guy could be the difference maker for this team. Because again, Pobelter is somebody who functions better in the spring split because there's such a dynamic shift in the meta every single season. He adapts really fast to things, but his mechanics can't keep up with the rest of the region. Like he genuinely is not able to keep up with the rest of the people playing. So that's why I think he sort of falls off every season in the summer split. I mean that's my inference on why it happens, but I think that's the biggest reason as to why I think it, like the reason for it. I think on top of the fact they have really like what is their carry? Who is their carry on this team? It is Pobelter. That's the only single carry point on this team. Like this has like in my opinion, I honestly only don't put them at 10th because like the fact that
there's Pobelter and then Immortals have Aka.
Yeah, I'm like at the very least, even on bad years for Pobelter, he's not Aka level, and that's the positive I can say for this team. But at the same time, like I don't know if that's enough. I don't know if that's enough to make this team any better than that. Like Pobelter is incredibly good, like locker room like personality. He's great for most things, but he's not good for winning anything. He's not good for pushing a team to the average level, pushing. Oh, that's not for you. I thought you were getting people knocking on your door.
Oh, that was too.
That wasn't you.
Good Lord.
But I think I don't want to insult CLG. I think that I do want to insult CLG. Why did they destroy any talent that comes onto their team? Like I think Wiggly showed potential when he first came to the region. I think Ruin showed potential right before he came in. Well, right before he came into the region. I think Crown showed potential right before he came onto this team, and Stixay had a really large amount of potential. He was one of the up and coming ADCs, and he was the best ADC for like a split and a half. And then all of a sudden, all these players lose their potential because CLG does something weird. Like I don't get it. Like even Smoothie looks like he's playing well. Like everybody on this team is playing worse because first of all, it has to be an upper management problem. Has to be. I don't know if it's a coach. I don't know if it's some sort of like a sports psychologist or like an analyst. I don't know. I'm not going to point fingers because I can't see what's going on under the scene, but there's so many problems with this team, and I don't know how I can address it because I don't actually know who's at fault here. It's not the team itself because if you put this team on paper just purely based off how they played at their primes, you would have an incredibly good team who could compete for 4th place to 3rd place. But therefore, and their primes aren't even far off. Like they've all been in their primes like 1 to 2 years ago, besides maybe Crown, but he was still really good last year. Like
that's weird.
Like it's all around. They've destroyed so many players' capabilities to play at some level, and it can't be the players every single time. It has to be somebody else. I don't think Song was the problem. I think Song is an incredibly good coach. I think he's showed potential on most of the teams he's been on. Even when he's on TSM, the problem for TSM was not their pick and ban phase. It was never that. Like, I think that my problem with CLG is something that I can't see because, I mean, again, their problems, mechanics, their problems are everything about the game. They don't have any good but like, why does everybody become poor mechanically when they go on CLG? That like, does that make sense to anybody? Like, it doesn't make sense to me. All these players become poor. Like, I mean, I know Stixay was on there, but that was before the most of the changes inside the upper management to lower management scene for CLG. And that was like all around. I mean, like, I don't have like much to say about them. I think that there are positives to this team. I think they're going to do pretty well. They might take a few games off some of the upper mid-tier to upper tier teams because they have Pobelter who's significant at being able, like, he knows how to close out games when he gets his team ahead. But that's really all I can say. I don't see any other positives to this team, and that's my 9th place team at least.
All right, so my 8th place team is CLG. So last split when they had Crown, by the time Pobelter came in, the team's morale was already destroyed, and I think that coming into this split with a fresh mindset with Pobelter there starting is going to be a lot more different because we saw the drastic change they actually had to make and go through when they changed from Crown to Pobelter. So Wiggly and Pobelter definitely worked better than Crown and Wiggly. I mean, Wiggly literally ran it down in a game. Like, he actually did do that. People forget that he literally played Jarvan. It actually ran it down, and I was like, okay, this is not working out. But when it came to Pobelter and he came in, all that just seems to go away. So, like, it tells me that the synergy problem got fixed. So now coming in, when the offseason, they had a chance to fix all these issues. Maybe they did, maybe they didn't. I'm just saying, you had a chance to see what they can do in the certain games they actually did win, though, because they did win games, and people did say when Pobelter joined the team, they did look better, though. Now, factor that in with practice in the offseason and coming in with a fresh Pobelter with the team's morale a little bit more higher, because when they were losing with Crown, they didn't know what to do. Like, you can't really expect Wiggly to do well when you can't talk to Ruin, he's Korean, you can't talk to Crown, he's also Korean, and the morale's dead. And Crown's literally losing every 1v1 possible. Ruin is basically bronze 1 top laner, maybe. And the bot lane can't do anything because Wiggly, by what a lot of the Korean players like to play for their playstyle, as what I've heard, they like their jungler around them. They want the jungler to play around them. So you had 2 clashing Koreans, and then you had a bot lane who never got resources. So I think that Pobelter is self-sufficient in his own to actually facilitate the team to do a lot better and allow Wiggly to actually go and be around the map more, because when they didn't have Crown and they had Power of Evil, we saw him actually play 10 times better. So that's why I'm going to have them at 8th place. I think they'll be a little bit better. They'll be a little bit better. I'm not saying they're going to be drastic, like, oh my god, insane.
I think they're going to be worse than they were at the end of Spring Split. I think they're going to be slightly worse because, again, I think we saw the potential of what this team's able to do. Like, unless there's a mentality bounce back, we're still going to have Ruin in the top lane. We're still going to have Wiggly, who's been good half of his career, half of it's been bad. Like there's so many negative things about this team, but like, and the positives of it, they are like, hey, sometimes Pobelter is able to lead his team, and that's like who is he leading though? He's leading Ruin, Wiggly, and stupid
Smoothie and Stixay.
Smoothie and Stixay, like those are the players he's leading. That's not a championship caliber team right there. That's not a 5th place caliber team. Like, yeah,
well, that's why I only have them at 8th. Like, I think their highest ceiling is 8th, barely making playoffs, tiebreaker game, very last game of week 9, like getting in barely. But I do think that they had to literally bounce back from Crown running it down that hard that, like, how can you function with that? Your laners are literally dying every 1v1.
I agree with that, but at the same time, they only kind of improved. They didn't really improve mechanically. I think mechanics, the only improvement was in the mid lane.
Mm-hmm.
Like
Kenley.
Yeah, you can hear him.
Oh my god, he's going crazy.
Yeah, like, realistically, the only changes that I see on this team that were like substantially positive were in the mid lane. Like, the rest of them, it just kind of, they took a mentality shift again, like, about the game, and I agree with that. Like, that was definitely an improvement, but at the same time, Pobelter had not only never plays well in the summer split because he always gets figured out, or not figured out, but the meta. When everybody kind of understands the meta, he significantly becomes worse because he's not good mechanically. Every single season that he's pretty much existed.
So who's your 8th place team?
My 8th place team is going to be, let me see. I'm trying to make sure I'm picking them correctly. My 8th place team is going to be Golden Guardians.
Wow. Okay.
I think that Golden Guardians literally is putting in Demonte. Demonte is the big factor of whether or not this team actually does better than I expect. Because I honestly don't know how he's going to bounce back from not only getting kicked out of the league and being told that you weren't playing really well, even when you were doing pretty well. And once he started playing poorly, people were like, yeah, he's always been doing this. I think that's a mentality that a lot of people took towards him, even though I think he played pretty well for most of the season. Like at the same time, I think Closer might have been one of the better junglers in the league, but I think that it really is not like the most unique playstyle. Like it's not like he was the most unique jungler. I think at the same time, like it's not something we haven't seen in NA. I don't think he's better than Prime Dardoch. I don't think it's just a lot of these junglers that usually are better than him are playing worse right now. I think that if they can either bounce back or at the very least, even Svenskeren can bounce back or all these things, he's not going to be the best jungler anymore. And then Hanser is probably the biggest carry threat on this team, sadly. And that is the sad thing for me. I mean, I think maybe I think again, Damonte is the big question mark for me. But Hanser is probably the biggest carry threat just based off of what is going on with this team right now. Like, I don't like him on carries and stuff, but you can't deny the fact that this is probably the one they play around the most.
Mm-hmm.
Closer, again, he is a functional, really, really solid early game jungler. And I think that the transition he made, like from Turkey, right?
Yeah.
From Turkey, I think
he played with Broken Blade at one point.
Yeah,
TSM actually wanted Closer.
Yeah, I think that it's been an incredibly good like improvement in my opinion from what like a lot of these imports have been doing, because a lot of the Turkish imports have worked out extremely well. Like, I mean, Ruin is the only one that didn't work out well, and that's just because he became on CLG, in my opinion. Probably the only reason. Like, all around, I think that I could see this Golden Guardians team doing a little bit better, actually, because, again, I there's a question mark on Damonte. I don't know what to put him at. But they still have one of the weakest bot lanes in the league. They still have a pretty mediocre mid.
I think FPI was serviceable.
Serviceable is mediocre. And they still have Huhi.
Well, you said that the lane is dictated by support and Huhi is underwhelming, so that's going to make FPI look underwhelming.
It's not about laning phase, I'm saying that. I'm talking about the lane in general, is the players. I think FPI was pretty mediocre, and I think Huhi is just not good in any specific role he plays. Hanser, again, as the main player on the best player on this team is just he's not even the top 3 of his position. Let me see. Let me make sure this is true. Yeah, he's not top 3. He's not.
Hanser was worse than Soaz this
That's what I'm saying. He was probably the 5th best AD. No, was he 5th or 6th?
Hanser? Because you had Broken Blade, Someday, Licorice, Someday.
Soaz, Someday. Yeah, he's the 6th best top laner in the league, and that's the best player on their team right there. Like, just think about it right there. Like, that's the big question mark I had for this team is Closer's early game aggressiveness enough to be able to put the leads enough in their favor?
I mean, he did do that. Well,
no, that's why they won games. But I'm saying, is it enough? The problem is these kind of early game aggressive playstyles don't translate well into the summer split usually if the players that you have on your team are not high caliber. Because
so you're saying that he's going to get figured out?
He's not going to get figured out. It's just it doesn't benefit like. These kind of things work out earlier in the spring split as comparison to the later split because better players scale better because when the meta gets figured out, everybody's playing the same. At the beginning of the season, only the people that have a firm grasp on the meta are playing the game properly. Everybody is going to be playing the game properly by the start to end of summer split, and Closer's going to be giving gold to pretty all around bad players. Like there's genuinely these resources he's giving them are not going to benefit them in the long run. And again, I honestly don't want to be right about this because there's a lot of like NA players on this team, and I really want like there to be
more bad NA players.
Really, like pretty average NA players would be good for me, but I don't see these lanes they can play through. There's just nothing for them.
My 7th place team.
Are we on 8th or 7th?
I want 7th.
Okay.
My 7th place team is actually going to be Golden Guardians. I think that they are easily much better than CLG, Dig, and IMT. So by bringing in
CLG, they're better than Dig easily?
I don't know because like Hanser, he was okay. Like he wasn't a carry threat, but also because no one really visited his lane. No one really did anything with him. They sent him on more or less so comfortable tank picks, which is just weird.
They went out in like one position to maybe 2.
Yeah. And then you have Damonte, which I think is a decently strong upgrade over Golden Glue. And that was Golden Glue's best split, though. I think that that is really telling about Golden Glue's career. He has like the best split, and then he gets kicked. I don't even know. He's just cursed. I think DeMonte is going to be a big upgrade from Golden Glue, and I think that Closer is going to be paired up with a stronger player who he can play through, because you just couldn't play through Golden Glue. Like, it was very clear that you can't play through him, and he's not a strong laner. And if you don't constantly babysit Golden Glue, then he's going to constantly lose. So Closer was forced to stay around mid, and he also can't go to bot lane. But bot lane's also serviceable enough that these other bot lanes, I feel like, are not going to be as strong. And I know Johnson's strong. I know Johnson is strong, but it depends on how well Aphromoo plays certain games.
He's better than Hui in every aspect. I mean, I don't agree with that in the slot. Like, they went out in both positions there. They obviously went out mid in comparison. Like, it's not just about winning. It's about, again, I think that they both have similar play styles in what they're going to play, because Dardoch and Closer are going to play aggressive early game, like jungling situations. And that's going to be like, so it's not a difference in play styles, really. It's about who can translate better into the mid game. And I honestly think it's probably going to be Dig, but I mean, it's up to you with whether you don't think.
Well, that's my 7th place team, Golden Guardians. I just think they're bare minimum decent enough to at least get 7th. At least they don't have Keith support anymore. Holy crap. That was good. God, never do that again.
Yeah. By the way, he said, depending on IMT, it's possible for IMT to be 9th. And I mean, I think we both put him at 10th, right?
I put him at 10th. I mean, they could get 9th if COG just suck even harder than they did last split.
Yeah, I mean, I think they're going to be worse. I think it's a very close run for last place, in my opinion, but I do think...
Oh, my Lord!
I think IMT does beat him out. But,
so you're on 7th place now.
Am I in 7th place?
Mm-hmm.
I think I had this picked, but I forgot who I picked. Oh, I think that's who I picked. Yeah, I'm actually going to put 7th place for me is going to be 100 Thieves.
Okay.
I think that the big thing about 100 Thieves, again, I genuinely do like the way they're playing. Like, to an extent, they started playing more around Someday than they did in the previous seasons. But what I don't like is the fact that their main carry threat, I mean, they're like, what's it called? Their main carry threat post, like, most of their comps are centralized around playing around Cody Sun and not Someday. I mean, they don't pick 1-3-1 comps. They usually pick like a team fighting kind of comps, and that's like because they pick supportive mids and stuff. And I get Ryuma's not good, so you don't want to put him on a carry, but like the moment you pick a supportive threat, you're forced into team comps, team fights, and that forces Someday to be a generic top laner at that point, and that's just how it works. Someday played incredibly well this season. I think that he was probably the best top laner, even though I don't think he is the best top laner. He had the biggest impact out of top lane.
He was the reason why they won games when they were not supposed to win games at all.
Yeah, Meteos took a gigantic step back this season. I think he's so much worse than he was last season. Like, I think that there's a few things, positive things I can say about this team. I think their ability to play around probably two, like they can shift from either a 1-4-0 comp, because you can't really play around Ryoma being in the side lane. But you can shift him to being in bot lane while you contest Baron, or you can play a full-on straight-up only team fight kind of comp, and that's something. I mean, that's something the other teams that I've named off have not been able to have yet. But the problem is, in the most important roles, I think that even though I think Stunt actually played well, I want to point out Stunt was probably one of the
very underrated. No one really gave him a lot of credit though.
Supports in the league that
he probably was like at least the 4th best support out of like the. Because you have Vulcan and you had Biofrost.
I think he might have been. He's not better than Vulcan. He wasn't better than Ignar, but I think he was comparable to.
He was the 4th best. I think he was the 4th best.
I'm saying he's comparable to Biofrost. It's very possible to toss him up there, because I don't think Biofrost played insanely good this split. But again, I mean, like somebody who's 4th to 3rd best support, I think, and with an ADC who plays insanely well in the late game, I think you have a pretty solid kind of identity as a team. And that's something, again, the bottom teams don't have that at the very least. Like they kind of just play the game aggressive or something, and that's the identifying factor of them. But the problem with 100 Thieves is the fact that they are so one-dimensional in the draft phase. They don't have much versatility in the champion pool for a lot of their players. So they're forced into situations where they have to pick really... Once they picked in the draft phase, and if they don't outdraft you, you essentially know exactly how they're going to play the game out. Like someday, if he's on a tank, you know that they're going to try not to really force anything too hard in the early game and try and scale into the late game. On top of the fact that Cody-san is the single worst, maybe one of the worst laning ADCs in the game. And it's going to be really hard for them to really stave off some of these fast. Like I think Golden Guardians and Dig are going to be the worst matchups for them because first of all, 100 Thieves is a stalling kind of team, and it's not going to be the worst. I mean, I'm leaving out Cloud9 because they don't exist comparing to other NA teams. like 100 Thieves is they're too slow in the early game. They're too generic in how they play the game. There's only two ways they can play it, and
they're like a NA version of Origin.
No, Origin is way better than them. I mean, they kind of had the same identity, kind of, but at the same time, Origin has multiple ways. They have two players I think they can consistently play around. You can't play around Someday and Cody-san at the same time because they require two different comps built around them.
Mm-hmm.
Someday can play around most comps, but a comp built around Cody-san is not built around Someday. It's built around Cody-san. A comp built around Someday, a comp built specifically around Someday is not going to function because you need the supportive tanky top. You need a front line. You need supportive mid. That's how you build around Cody-san. And Cody-san is really good at team fighting, and that's really something I can give him. But that's why I don't give too much. My expectations for 100 Thieves aren't high because, again, the lack of versatility in how they can play the game is something I think is going to be exploitable by faster-paced. The faster-paced teams don't even need to change the way they play the game because they'll win every single time. As long as you take the initiative and you're able to kind of solidly close out a game, they're never going to beat you.
All right, Abigail. Hey, how's long time no see? C9EG, FlyQuest, TL, TSM, 100 Thieves, Dig, GGS, and last CLG. EU, G2, Fnatic, Mad Lions, and Origin. LPL, Top Esports, JDog, FPX, either RNG or World Elite. Also, Abigail, you were right about World Elite. They are something special, actually. I was watching their games. They're actually something special. LCK.
She
won.
What's it called? She didn't like IMT so much she didn't even put them in the rankings. They don't deserve that.
LCK, T1, Dragon X, and Damwon? I don't know, Abigail. Damwon looked pretty suspect in that. Damwon is, God, man, I'm so off of them. They're so suspect, man.
I honestly think out of all the teams, the ones that showed up the most, in terms of just changing the way they played, is everybody but Gen.G. Gen.G played the same style, and everybody else kind of played more. Again, Gen.G was always a little bit faster paced because of stupid Cuz though, so it's not like.
Gen.G have Clid.
Clid. I always mix them up because they both have C's. Sorry.
Or because I look the same. That person was Vin Diesel outside.
Yeah, Vin Diesel, right? I use Fast and Furious, dude. I think my problems with what's it called? With
Gen.G?
Gen.G is the fact that, again, I do think they play pretty fast paced, but and they have a really solid roster. I really don't have too much, but I think that their potential, their ceiling is not as high as, first of all, Dragon X's, because Dragon X all around, they might have a pretty play style. They have a one-dimensional play style, but they're so good at it that there's not really something else. You have to just genuinely be able to take out them. If you don't take them out by mid-game, they win the game. And that's most teams. That's almost every team in the world.
I don't know, Abigail.
Damwon just has the best players.
Damwon is glass. I think Damwon is glass cannon.
They are, but I mean that can then
Damwon have no sense of late game. Damwon have almost no sense of how to play around certain compositions when they're not ahead. They're just a glass cannon. And it was shown this split. If they don't have what's they're comfortable with, and they don't really know how to play around certain styles, they just don't know what to do. In the tournament, they were losing to SKT because they didn't even know how to fight SKT until 40 minutes in. That's one of their own teams they did not do this against.
The reason they weren't able to fight them in the early game was because SKT made it pretty drastic.
Rascal and Life are awful. Don't remind me, Abigail. Don't remind me of that.
They made a drastic gold
place. Yeah.
SKT had a gold lead for most of the game, and they threw it away. I think it's a little bit unfair, but at the same time, like it's understandable. I think Gen G is not going to Worlds this year.
Oof.
Like I think that, and it's all like again, like if Dragon X and Damwon don't come up to their senses, like if they don't play to their potential, Gen G is going to take that spot though. I think that they will take the second place spot. It's all dependent on whether or not they played that though. But what number are we on?
Oh, I am on number 6 myself. I'm on 6. My number 6 team is going to be 100 Thieves. I think that they are a gatekeepers team. I think that they actually looked pretty solid toward the end of the split, but they're always a team that racks up very slowly. Like every single season, they usually rack up pretty slowly. So Someday is a reason why they win games. He was on Aatrox. He'd be on like Orin, one-shotting people. He would be on set, killing a bunch of people around the map, like solo killing, and then trying to obviously get objectives. But I just don't really see them actually doing anything really well past 6th place. So you have Someday who is extremely solid and also pretty good depending on where you actually want to place them and how you want to rank Someday as an individual top laner. Someday was also one of the best top laners and he was easily top 3. Also, you have to factor in, you do have Ryoma, who is actually probably just about as weak as Aka. So that is going to place them a lot further down. I think having a worse mid laner overall is going to make them overall not going to be able to challenge the other top teams because the other top teams have a better mid laner that's going to be able to overcome Ryoma at any point. At any point, Ryoma will be overcome by any top mid I have over him. So you have Jizuke and you Power of Evil. Then you have Jensen, Niski, Bjergsen. I mean, they all beat him during the split. So there's no real reason to say that, oh, well, I mean, he can beat them now when I didn't see that in literally 18 games last split. And then you also have to count playoffs where he pretty much only carried 1 game. So I think that you have that. Then you also have the jungling position for them, which is Meteos. Meteos came in with a lot of hype because of how well he performed on Optic. And he performed well on Optic. He was able to get Optic to playoffs the first time around in their org's history, but it didn't really amount to much because they got knocked out by CLG. Then now coming into the split, in the very first game, Meteos was beaten by Closer. And that game right there showed me he was going to struggle during the split. I mean, it was very evident he was struggling all split long, and I think that you have to look at that and go, Meteos only knows how to play through Someday. Meteos barely goes bot. Like, he'll go bot if it pertains to a dive situation, which, I mean, that is a good sense of how to actually play the game, but when you're also looking at other things that they also have going well for them, you have Cody Sun and Stunt. I think that they both were a pretty good bot lane. I thought Cody Sun was easily top 4 ADC. Like, laning phase, I think laning phase, he actually improved in his laning phase. He was able to get a couple solo kills and 2v2 kills with Stunt, and they were able to force the pace of the game against weaker bot lanes, not against the top tier bot lanes. I think that they have a good enough bot lane that's a measuring stick that's good enough to beat all the lower tier bot lanes, and then I also think they have a good enough top laner to beat out the rest of the team's other top laners, because Someday is better than Haunter, he's better than Viper and Lorlo, he's going to be better than Ruin, he's going to be better than Soaz. So you also have the standard players you need for them to be a middle of the pack team. The issue with the 100 Thieves is the same issue with Origin. As I pointed out earlier, they are a predictable team. You know exactly what they're going to do every single game. That's a problem because the other teams have different play styles you can actually do. So different games, they'll try to switch it up on you. So Cody Sun, one game will be on the Misfortune Nautilus, and he'll be carrying the game, or it's someday on Aatrox going 1v9. I mean, I don't see that every single game, so that's also a problem, because that doesn't mean they're also not playing towards their strengths. So that's why I have 100 Thieves at 6th place. I think they're a bare minimum of what you need in a team to at least challenge the top tier team. I could see them taking games off TSM, TL, maybe FlyQuest. I don't see them taking games off C9. I mean, this is also the same 100 Thieves that almost beat TSM. This is the same team, though. So you have to give them credit for that. They did almost beat TSM. They actually had a really close game 5. It could have went either way. 100 Thieves were winning the majority of that game. Bjergsen put TSM on his back. I mean, like he always does. And yeah, that's why 100 Thieves is going to be my 6th place team. I think they have the bare minimum essentials of what you need in decently strong players that don't lose laning phase. And you also have one of the best top laners in the league who knows how to carry games. Oh, gosh.
Koji-san loses every laning phase. Excuse me? Koji-san
Thank you, Abigail. Thank you, Abigail. Koji-san, most underrated ADC in the LCS.
Koji-san is extremely good at team fighting, and that's all you can give him credit for. Koji-san was like, let's see.
I think he played better in the laning phase this year. Those last split and playoffs.
I think, I mean, again,
he had some lane leads. He was getting 2v2 kills with stunt. He was able to rotate the dragon with stunt very effectively.
What do you mean very effectively? If they went top, he went to dragon, and that's not, they can't contest it. That's just the reality of how it plays out.
Do you just hate Cody-san that much to the point where you're not really to give him credit?
What? He's not good at laning phase, and that's something you can't give him credit for.
Who's your 6th place team?
My 6th place team, I actually didn't think about this, so it's going to take me a few seconds.
Oh, Lord. Guys, he has the spiciest takes. He's like, man, Meteos can beat Jankos in an international tournament. I'm like, no, it's not ever going to happen.
My 6th place team is going to be Evil Geniuses.
Okay.
My problem with Evil Geniuses right now is the top lane problem with the fact that they brought in Huni and they're talking about putting him in the starting roster, maybe not, is considerably enough for me to realize that the talk about Bane being a little bit upset with the situation he's in is not an actual non-existent thing. Jizuke played really well at the end of the split this season and played terrible in the playoffs. And I think that's a problem that I'm having with him right now is that he's too inconsistent. He's had a very large amount of bad games. Svenskeren is not nearly as good as he was last split. The top lane, it still exists. Like, they just don't have a solution. Even with both of them on that team, they still don't have a good solution to whatever team, like whatever the top lane situation is, because Huni played pretty poorly. Huni is an upgrade slightly over Kumo, but Kumo is younger, and I would still give him time to develop. Zeyzal is trash, and Bang was one of the best ADCs in the league, but I don't know how this is going to function. I think he is probably going to be on the team still. I don't think they're replacing him, but I'm not going to pretend that it's not a possibility. Like, the fact that Huni's even on the team means that they're considering getting rid of one of the imports. That means that there is talks about it. But again, I think the problem with this team is they're relying mostly on like the power of their players. They have extremely good players when they're all like they're working on Scylla, like they're all functioning pretty well. But that's the limitation on what I can give them credit for. Like I think that they're it's not like hyper aggressive play style with Svenskeren or anything. It's like just mind-numbingly good at mechanics, and they are able to translate into team fights extremely well in mid game because they have such good players. They're able to do that. Zeyzal's not been making much of an impact. Svenskaren's early game has actually felt pretty well. I think he improved to one of the better junglers in the league by the end of the split, but it took a little bit too much time for him to come online. Bang, again, I'll keep on saying Bang was probably a top 3 ADC in the league. Right. I think that like you put Sven over him and then Johnson maybe. And then he was right there. I think he was pretty close to second place. All around, I think Evil Geniuses is going to be worse than they were last split because they were falling off in the playoffs. It was a mentality thing. It was all this stuff. It didn't seem like they were playing to the same level at which they had started the season at. Which they had
It's like mid to end season because the first part of the season looked so suspect from them.
No, I'm saying that the end of the season they started like it's not the same team we saw towards that end of the season, and the amount of games that they played that were good are just they're not actually it's not that large of an amount. Like they had so many bad games. It's almost half of the games where they played poorly. But the problem was there's like 6. It's like Team Liquid existed. Like all these teams pushed them into a position where there wasn't much competition for them to be able to like lose out either on a playoff position or lose out on being like one of the top teams in the league. Like genuinely, I think the Evil Geniuses was not extremely strong last season. Like the last split, they didn't have any special qualities besides their ability to play around strong players. That's something, again, I think that they have a worse grasp. Like if we just have to talk about just the play style, CLG had a better play style than them at the end of the season. but CLG didn't have any players to make that work.
Mm-hmm.
Jizuke was literally solo carrying for the late half of the season. And that's why he's even in MVP conversation, because he was terrible at the beginning half. That's how good he played at the end of the season. They put him back into conversations.
But EG solo laners look strong. I mean, one of them looks bad. Only Kumo looked bad. The other laners looked pretty good overall.
Bang looked really good again. What I said earlier, I think it sounds like there's some inner turmoil with Bang, and Jizuke has to play well. Jizuke's played inconsistently well throughout the entirety of the season, and the most recent games I have of memory are him playing terrible. Like, he got schooled by pretty much everybody he played in the playoffs. Like, Jizuke is not the most consistent player. I don't think when he's on point, he's extremely good. He's better. He'll out.
I mean, he did beat Power Vivo the first time around when they played against FlyQuest.
I guess. I mean, definitely not the second time around.
Yeah, second time around. Yeah, after that first playoff series, he looked pretty bad after that.
I'm saying
he looked worse against Niski. Though I was like, what in the world? I was like, this looks bad. My fifth place team is going to be Evil Geniuses. So this is a team that came into the last split. They had a lot of hype around them. Cloud9 2.0. I'm not even going to get into that. That's just a stupid anything. They were not a Cloud9 2.0. They were a Cloud9 wannabe. No, they were nothing Cloud9 related. They didn't even play the same, actually. All they had was previous players that played on Cloud9. Now, Kumo looked pretty bad all split long. Kumo didn't really do much. Now, I don't know if that was because Svenskeren didn't want to play towards Kumo, if he didn't think he was going to be strong enough to play towards. Bang and Zazel.
It wasn't resource management that made him bad. That was
he laned bad. He had winning matchups he lost. He would be on Jace, be 30 CS down. I'm like, I don't know what the hell I'm even watching. And Svenskeren couldn't play through him. So he played through Jizuke. I think that their synergy was not that good when it first started. And then after that, you had Jizuke and Svenskeren synergy improving. Then at some point, it also got worse. So they're an inconsistent, pretty strong duo. I think Svenskeren got better as the season went along, but Jizuke was so inconsistent that Svenskeren is the what's the word I'm going to use? He is a non-beneficiary of an inconsistent, really high skill ceiling mid laner. So that's how you have to look at Svenskeren, because with Niski and Svenskeren was different because you knew what you were getting out of Niski and you knew what you were getting out of Svenskeren, so they had a compromisable duo. With this duo, it's Jizuke. I mean, he might dive 1v5 and get a kill, and Svenskeren has to follow up or he's going to look bad. After that, you had Bang and Zazel. I thought Bang was around, third best ADC. I thought he played pretty well all split long.
Really well.
He pretty much became the SKT Bang again to some lower extent. And then you had Zazel. I think Zazel, he was hit or miss. There were some games where he played pretty well. Those Target games looked pretty good. There was the game where he played Rumble support. He looked pretty well on the Rumble support. So there were certain games that he played well. And I think that the team overall, for the reason why I have them ranked lower this place, because I don't think they were the second best team. I think that I think TSM was better than them. I also think that FlyQuest, yeah, but they went 1-1 with FlyQuest though. So that's an argument you could be like, well,
FlyQuest was obviously turning it back on towards the later half of the playoffs.
Yeah.
FlyQuest trashed them the second time around.
I just think that last split was not a clear indicative point of about how strong they actually were. But I do think they have strong players, and I do think coming into this split, if Jizuke just hits the ground running with Svenskeren, they'll have a really good shot at making the playoffs, and I think they're going to make the playoffs. But going to Worlds, ooh, I don't know. I don't know about that. Like, you'd be taking Kumo to Worlds, and he could be potentially facing Zoom. Yikes. I don't even think Kumo's better than Rascal, and Rascal is pretty suspect on Gen G, and I like Gen G.
I want to point out, again, if we look at it, we can't say anybody really played well for Evil Geniuses towards the later half of the, because if we look at Santorin versus, like, Dardoch, I would just want to look at the jungle matches specifically real quick. The way it worked is Dardoch forced early game pressure in the early game and still didn't give up any objectives, and Santorin was pushed into a situation where he was forced to stagnate because he wasn't able to respond to anything, either the side lane pressure, and he wasn't able to get objectives out that for the most part, unless they just were smashing the game. Like, regardless, with the Evil Geniuses versus FlyQuest series the second time around, he just walked into the Dragon Pit every single time and took it. And then there was no ganks. There was like literally no ganks. No ganks. And it just bothered me so much that nothing was happening. That's why I'm like, it was forced into a situation where it was just purely who has the better players. And at that point in time, Jizuki was playing trash. Kumo just kept playing the way he had. Like, there was no way.
Zeyzal was literally non-existent in some games.
All around, like, they pushed themselves into a situation by not reacting in the early game to the point where they have to have better players. And unless their teams are playing pretty well, they just can't beat people. Like, they want to rely on team fighting prowess. They want to rely on their abilities to be able to beat based off of not actual macro play. They want to beat them off of talent. And first of all, they won't do that in Worlds. They're not. It's not possible for them. Even if everybody's firing on cylinders, TS just dismantle every single team. I mean, again, I agree with that. I think that FPX is going to do a little bit better against JDG the second time around. I mean, they tried a different play style out against JDG. They tried to swap how they played against them, but it didn't work out. Obviously, they just didn't look good. Like the first game, FPX is one of the most hyper aggressive early game teams in the league, but they picked a scaling comp against them most of the games and tried to out team fight them instead of actually trying to like make stuff happen in the early game. And I think FPX still is the better team because JDG is not existent in the early game enough. There's no way EDG can reach 4th or 3rd. I don't want to say there's no way because, again, if Jizuke comes back online, I mean, I
think 4th is their ceiling. I think 4th will be their ceiling this split. I think 3rd place last split was not indicative of how strong they actually were. People have to factor in when, like, it's the Golden Guardians terminology, like how people predicted Golden Guardians to be 10th place, right? So they did play like a 10th place team for a good majority of the split. That doesn't mean I can't just say they didn't. You just can't erase that. But that's the same thing with EG. They played like how most people anticipated. They just turned it around. Now, you have to factor in a lot of these teams are going to go through meta shifts. And I think a lot of people forget that when you're doing power rankings, you have to factor in, will this actually work based on the meta shift? So there's usually 2 meta shifts. There's one when the actual split starts, and then there's one toward the playoffs, toward the very end of the finals. I don't think that a lot of the players on EG are good when you switch the meta around. We saw Zeyzal have this problem. Zeyzal had this problem when they changed the meta. We also had
the meta in like 3 seasons because apparently Riot has stated that they like this meta. And they're just consistent.
I mean, you get to choose. They did create the game, though.
I'm not saying anything. It's just that, regardless of if it's a good idea, which I think is stupid, that is the choice they made.
Then you have Kumo. Kumo could barely play Aatrox. Like, what is that? The man barely played Aatrox well. Like, I just think that they'll be 5th for a lot of different reasons, but they're not a bad team. Overall, they're not a bad team. And that's my 5th place team. So just to kind of recap, all the way to this point, we're at the halfway point. 10th place IMT, 9th place Dig, 8th place CLG, 7th place Golden Guardians, 6th place 100 Thieves, and EG is 5th place. He had IMT 10th, CLG 8th, CLG at 9th. Dig is at 8th, right?
Oh.
Or you had Golden Guardians at 8th, right?
7th place was 100. Who was it?
100 Thieves, actually.
It was 100 Thieves. 6th place. Did I pick 6th place yet?
Did you pick 6th place? Oh, you had EG, right?
Evil Geniuses, yeah.
Yeah, okay, so 5th place. Now you're on 5th place, yeah.
It's going to be FlyQuest. I mean, the more that I think about it, I think that Power of Evil is an incredibly good player, and I think that Ignar is able to push the tempo of the game with him in the early game. With as both hyper aggressive early game players, they're able to push the tempo of the game enough to the point where even with what's his name in the top lane now, what's his name? You remember the top laner's name? The one that just replaced with
top. Good lord! Oh, freaking Solo.
Yeah, Solo. With Solo in the top lane now, I think that there's gonna be a little more consistency with them because again, Viper is probably the one with the bigger ceiling, but Solo is the one that's going to provide stability because they don't need that third. They don't need a third carry out of this team. They have two in Power Evil and Wild Turtle when he's not sucking. Wild Turtle played. I mean, this has been one of the better seasons he's had in a long time. Like last season was pretty solid for him, but I think this season's even better for him. He played a lot of the with the addition of Xayah. When Xayah is open, I think he plays insanely well. And Rakan which is Ignar's best pick, is literally just the perfect pick with it, which is like it forces them to ban out one of the two, and that opens up Power of Evil's champion pool where you're forced to leave open a few picks. On top of the fact they are able to play multiple different ways about the game because Wild Turtle can function as a secondary to main carry. Like as much as it might not be as good as like putting Teddy there, it still is acceptable in NA. Like Santorin played really well in the split. He did terrible in the playoffs, but I think that's acceptable. My problem again, Solo is gonna hold down the lane at the very least. I mean, look what he did to Broken Blade. Stupid.
Hold on, give me one sec. Just talk for a moment. I'll be right back.
I think that there are a few problems I find on this team. They don't have the best players in every position, and I think the only one that really stands out is like Power of Evil. Power of Evil is a top 2 to top 3 mid laner at the very least. Like you can't argue about that, and like that really is the definitive reason as to why they're able to play so many different. What's it called? Is because his champion pool is so large, and his ability. He has pretty much changed himself into be able to play pretty much any way you ask him to. He can play the supportive role, which I don't like him on. I really don't think it'd work on this team. But if they want to put Wild Turtle on that main carry threat, they're able to. Solo is not going to do much besides play tanks. I mean, he didn't look bad on GP. I mean, like when he played it in the playoffs. So there is saying that. Like, I think there's not much I can say about FlyQuest though. I think their aggressive play style is not as fast paced as what I think Diggs is going to be, and like Golden Guardians. I think their early game aggression is going to be stifled against the faster paced teams than them. But at the same time, I don't think they're going to struggle against the lower tier teams because they just have too good of players on their team to be forced to struggle against them. Can't wait for G2 versus C9. They did buff Senna, but it's still not going to make her a viable ADC in terms of just actually CSing herself because the percentage difference between when you're actually playing as support and not actually CSing yourself and when actually like when you're like the starving meta is still going to be existent because of the percentage. The percentage is most definitely in favor of the person if you're not CSing. Like Senna still gets more from not CSing, like more stacks. I mean, but I think C9 versus G2 is going to be interesting. As much as people don't want to like admit it, I do think it's going to be an interesting matchup at the very least.
Definitely going to be interesting to see how C9. This C9 is going to fare a lot better than last year's C9. That's definitely.
Last year's C9 was trash.
Oof, man.
Like all around, I think you don't like me saying that.
What happened? No. Just something happened. I had to delete a video because for some reason the mic just cuts out randomly on like certain videos, and it makes me angry that I have to go redo a whole video and just taking up my free time and shit. I wish I could set up the freaking Blue Yeti mic, but I haven't got a chance to.
I told you I'd set it up for you.
Good Lord. Lord. No, the mic, like, it just, like, literally sometimes it works perfectly, and then, like, randomly certain videos, I put all my effort into it, and then I have to delete the video, because that was just bad. I just cannot have that. But I'll just continue. It's fine. So, who are you? You're on your 5th place. Yeah, okay.
And I put FlyQuest.
Okay. Give me a 1 second break, guys. Sorry if this is kind of wonky. Sorry about this. Let me go to Facebook really quickly. Yeah. Hopefully you guys have been enjoying the streams. A lot of people have been enjoying the streams though. Can I take a little bit of an intermission right here? You guys have been enjoying all this stuff, so I personally want to say thank you for that, actually. I didn't think that live streaming League would actually be as fun as it is. But earlier today, I was gonna live stream on my main channel, but just didn't have the time to. I'm probably gonna end up moving it to what's that thing? I'm probably gonna end up moving it to Thursday because I was about live for maybe 20 minutes and almost no one showed up, and I was like, well, this is just a dead day. Wednesday just isn't a really what's the day? I would say it's not an exciting day for a lot of people, so I'll just move the main channel stream from Tuesdays and Thursdays. So that's just what I'll probably do in the future. What happened?
I'm definitely gonna show up for this one. Are you talking about Superman again?
No. 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 Today was gonna be 2.5 men. It was gonna be is Age of Ultron better than we last remember? I don't know. Just like you always got to create new topics and create new things to get people interested and exciting about something. But it's okay. It's okay. But I know Wednesday's a slow day, so people have asked me to change them from Tuesday for off Wednesday anyway, so it's fine.
You kind of throw yourself off into very different tangents too consistently. You distract yourself with conversations.
Oh Lord! Don't you think of me as cool and sexy?
I think of you as neither one of those things.
All right.
I think again, I don't know if I addressed all the problems with FlyQuest. I don't really know what I said about them, but again, I think if I have to make a quick overview, I think that they're an aggressive early game team, but they're not as aggressive as the most aggressive teams. They have really good players on the map, which is something they're able to do. They have the versatility with the 2 carries to be able to play 2 different ways, but their second carry and their second different way of playing through Wild Turtle is not as strong as the main way, which is why they're not as good as the top teams. Like some of these top teams have 2 really solid ways to play around the map besides just like their star player. I think that's pretty much it though. So.
Yeah. Oh, okay. So let me get into my top 4. So top 4, FlyQuest. I think FlyQuest was really good last split, though I am a little bit more not as high on them as some people are. Ignar is a support who is very limited in champion pool and can only really play specific things correctly. He's only really good on Rakan and Alistar and playmaking supports overall, but it does give FlyQuest a new way to actually play than when they had JJ and Wadid. So I think that's a big upgrade for them, and he was a big upgrade because FlyQuest came into this year having to basically rebuild, and they did actually. They rebuild around Wild Turtle like they always do for some reason, and well, I don't think Wild Turtle was that good. I don't see what people saw in him, really. I think he literally lost almost every laning phase. He was never up in gold.
Where he straight up carried.
Yeah. And then you also had games where he couldn't, I don't know. He was very underwhelming, but he's always been underwhelming.
He's not underwhelming. He's for Cloud, for NA, I think he's a solid player.
But I think compared to like the top tier teams, yeah, like that's the thing though. It's like Wild Turtle is serviceable.
Well in the world, come on.
I mean, he's serviceable, which is fine, but he's not really like when they try to put him on like mages, you can tell he's not flexible. He's not really good on those, so it's like, But their bot lane was good. I think Wild Turtle looked better with Ignar, and you have Power of Evil. I thought Power of Evil was a top 3 mid laner during the split. Then you also have the problem with FlyQuest and the reason why they're a little bit lower. So I do not think Solo played very well, actually. I thought Solo looked pretty bad in the games that he did play. People wanted to try to make this narrative that he was really good, and I actually recently watched those games. I was like, what did he really do? He wasn't Viper, but he also wasn't good either. So you didn't really get an upgrade. I think you got the same player, except that you got a how would I put this for people who don't understand what I'm saying? You got a less graceful losing top laner. That's who you got. You didn't get an upgrade because what I saw was not an upgrade. You got a top laner who also lost, but he didn't lose as bad because when Viper lost, he just lost all the way around.
This stupid Broken Blade, dude. Come on.
Oh, I mean, that's more or less so Dark and Broken Blade messing up than Solo doing that.
Dark and Broken Blade. Broken Blade played to trash that series.
I mean, but I don't know.
I was trash that series. He was trash, and Solo was substantially better than that entire series.
That's one series, though. Like he didn't look
as still above him as a player, but like he straight up fooled him that series.
I just didn't think he was impressive, and I think that coming into the split, their little honeymoon phase is going to be over from Viper, and they have Solo now, and they're going to get exposed. And I think Santorin is going to get exposed to split because I don't think he was also that insanely strong either. But he's for an A standard actually still pretty okay. So you have a good team with good fundamentals, and the thing about FlyQuest is why I have them ranked a lot higher is they know exactly how to draft specifically for their players. And that's something you can't really ever deny. They have a lot of good things about them, but they are weaker, and I don't think NA was that strong last split, but that's not a knock against them. It's just like we saw weeks where they were literally going like 0-3. Like they're definitely not strong, but they have redeemable things about them. So that's why I have them at 4th. Plus, they also finished 2nd, and they did beat EG. So, I can't just put EG above them, and I literally just saw FlyQuest beat them about 2 months ago. That'd be just ridiculous. But I do not think Solo was that good. And I think this split Solo is going to get exposed for how weak he actually is. He played pretty bad. He had the one TSM series, and that's like, there was game 5, and he also didn't look good in that game either. He was losing that game, and he was a reason why they almost lost it too if they were to be in that position. So, yeah, FlyQuest is my 4th place team. So you're on 4-2, right?
I'm on 4. I'm going to put Team Liquid here. So Team Liquid is giving the benefit of the doubt that they're going to play. Like, I honestly think I might be a little too being a little bit too nice by giving them 4th place, because they've shown nothing to deserve 4th place. Every single person besides Jensen on this team has not played well. Like, the reality is, everybody's hoping that they are going to bounce back because of the fact they've gotten rid of double lifts, and they think that is the countermeasure. But, like, oh my God, the fry was burnt. Like, the reality is, I see the potential that they showed as a team. Impact, even when at the end of the season, like when Double S started playing better, Impact was still trash. Still one of the worst top laners in the league. JJ has not been playing that well. Even when Tactical was playing, I don't think he was impressive. Might give them a little more leniency for him to be able to roam around the map, but that's pretty much all I can say. Jensen played pretty well, so there's not too much you can say about that. Broxa, again, serviceable enough. I think he's a pretty solid jungler, and if the team starts playing better, we're going to see Broxa look like one of the better junglers in NA again. But that's pretty much, like, I gave them 4th place. I'm being really nice right now because I think they could bounce back. But they genuinely, recency, they look terrible. I can't give them higher than that because, honestly, again, 4th place still could be too high. But Impact is not looking good. Impact, even with the changed roster, even with the end of the season bounce back, he still never improves past where he was before. And that's one of the main integral parts of this team is because they have a low econ top and he's able to play so well on weak side, they're able to play around the rest of the map so efficiently. But Impact is not playing to that standard. Broxa is not the best jungler in the league, and he wasn't playing insanely well. I feel bad for him with the situation he's stuck into, but it's still there. The situation is still the same.
Yeah.
Where JJ has not played well this season. It looks like Kane's choices in the drafting phase has not swapped from last year, even though everybody's a little more fast-paced this year. Like, all around, I think the problems that Team Liquid has is I'm giving them a benefit of the doubt. I do think Impact is going to play better because he usually does. But if he doesn't, I mean, this team still could genuinely miss out on playoffs again. This is still the same team roster-wise that didn't make playoffs last split. Like, realistically, getting rid of one of the best ADCs in the league should not be an upgrade for you. And it is.
Well, he wasn't one of the best ADCs last split, though.
I'm saying their ceiling is gone now, and Tactical has to fill in the position as you're not bad enough to the point where the good environment you bring to the team is more of a morale. Than the loss you get from replacing Double Lift, because Double Lift looked pretty solid at the end of the year. Like, I don't see this. He looked pretty solid towards the very end of the year.
I think you're saying solid, so like, I don't know. I think he looked okay.
Last 2 weeks, he looked good.
No, good is giving it. He looked good against Golden Guardians. Does that count? Come on.
He looked good better against other people. He looked good at the end of the year. I think you just genuinely don't want to give him credit. Like, he looked solid at the very end of the year or season split, whatever it's called. He bounced back, and that's something a lot of people are giving him credit for. But that's not something that's going to happen with Tactical. Tactical's ceiling is lower, and Impact has not bounced back recently. Like, all around, I really could see this Team Liquid team getting like 8th place to 8th through 7th to 6th. But I mean, at the same time, if Impact bounces back, they're definitely going to be a top 5 team, regardless. But that's pretty much it for me. I think they're not going to be as good as last Team Liquid's team because they don't have Double Lift. But they did replace Xmithy with a faster paced jungler, so that their play style is going to be more suited for this year.
So my 3rd place team is going to be Team Liquid. I think that the aspect of Double Lift leaving is going to give them something to actually play for when that's going to be in a lot of different ways. So Impact had his worst split he's ever had in North America. I don't think that's clearly something that is who he actually is. I think the situation Doublelift created for this team lingered from the offseason all the way toward the end of the split, which is pretty crazy how one player can have that big of an impact. Jensen actually looked pretty well all split. There were some games where he didn't look that good, but I mean, half of his team was basically running it down, so that's not his fault. But everybody kept saying, well, Jensen looked pretty good. I mean, it's really great how you can look that good on a team that's actually in ninth. He was like you could say like he was the best bottom tier mid laner that's ever been in ninth place. That's pretty crazy, but I think that Broxa coming into the split will be a lot stronger because when he came in, the team was already done for. There was a few games where he carried, and that's fine. He played Lee Sin, but I think he's only able to carry on specific champions. Like, he's not a carry-orientated jungler. So I think that when you have Broxa, he can play through people. And I think if he could just play through Tactical and Jensen, they'll have a strong base, and you still have a really strong team overall. Like, if you just take out this split, you have Impact, you have Core JJ, Broxa, and Jensen. Like, even without Doublelift, people factor in, that's still a strong team. Like, just so Doublelift, it doesn't mean they're all just complete shit, you know? So that's something I just can't say, oh, they don't have Doublelift, so they're just all shit. No, that's not how it goes, you know? Like, I just can't see that. You also had Tactical. Tactical came in, and people said with Tactical, for those 2 weeks he played, they looked the best with him. So why not take that best they look with him and just apply it to the whole split? If they're going to be happy with Tactical, I think being happy with Tactical is going to make them play better if they are not being burdened by Doublelift. And I think their play style is going to be more beneficial because they're not going to have to play towards Doublelift. They can do other things now. We can see them in a different light. And it's like Doublelift leaving is going to feel bad for some TL fans, but I think this is a blessing in disguise. If you're able to play different styles, that's going to make you stronger.
I don't think they can play different styles. It's more so their early game is going to be a little bit different. Like, I think that's the big thing. Like, their early game is not forced to where Core JJ only roams on specific matchups. And that's the big thing I can say. I think they're going to be a little faster paced. And that's something I can agree with. But I don't think Teamwork looks better. I mean, again, why are we giving Impact the benefit of the doubt? We're just expecting it.
Because, no, a lot of these players have only ever really had one bad split, though. And Core JJ didn't even have that bad of a split, though. I mean, he was basically... He had to cover up for a lot of things the other players were doing. And you still have to factor in, there was a Fire situation. There was, by week 4, they didn't all want to play with Doublelift. There's a lot of things. So coming into the split, mentalities are fresh. They all had a bad split. And to be fair, you can't really blame Broxa, though. Like, he's coming in to an imploded team, and there's not much he can do. Like, junglers are a product of how your laners are. So that's why a lot of other junglers get a little bit overrated because of how strong their junglers were.
If that was true, then Closer would not be looked at as efficient, as well as he is, because he was rated the best.
But Closer's team wasn't mentally imploded. That's different. They were also
trash around the map. He had the worst laners around in the league in terms of just pure laners out of everybody. Yet somehow he made himself look like the single best jungler in the league. Like, I think that Golden Blue, FBI, Keith, and Hanser are not incredibly good in and of themselves. Hanser's pretty average, pretty above average maybe. But at the same time, that's not enough for me to say, hey, this team could work out. Like, Closer looked pretty solid with the players he had around him, and that's because he knew how to play around the map regardless. He pushed the pace of the team regardless, and even if his team's not good, with ganks, you're always going to win. You're always going to win the game if it's 2v1.
I think it's just hard for Broxa to play through a certain player because he has a worse play style than Closer does. So Broxa likes to play towards one side of the map, and I think he didn't really know what side to play through. Like, what side did he play through? He didn't even know what side to play through. But I think coming into this split with their offseason practice, he'll know what lane to play through. And I think you still have great players overall. Like, a couple of bad weeks and a bad split shouldn't be the big end-all be-all for a lot of these people.
I think I'll give them benefit of the doubt. I put them at 4th place, even though they didn't even make playoffs.
They have a higher ceiling than FlyQuest. That's why I have them above FlyQuest, though. I think
they have a higher ceiling than most people in this league, but
that's why I have them higher. You still have to factor in these players you still have 4 other great players overall, even without Doublelift, though. You still have to take
one good player last split. Like, all these players played last split. That's the reason I can't put them up. Like, 4th place was generous, but I think that I do think they're going to bounce back. But I don't want to give them too much credit because it's possible that they don't. It's possible that Impact just consistently plays the way he's been playing recently, and maybe that's the end of his career right here.
Hopefully not. Hopefully not.
But it's a possibility. But I think that's pretty much it for that. And my number 3 team, right? Am I on that? Or are you
Yeah.
still going on?
What was it? Abigail. But Impact is not as good as the Shy 369 and Con can play carries. Oh,
Well,
I mean,
don't compare NA players to Chinese players. It's just unfair to us.
even if the Shy is running it down, he's still better than Impact.
It's like saying going to LeBron James and saying, "Man, he's way better than your college team over there." Come on, like we're good for the situation we're in, and we have to compare them to the other players around them. We don't have to if we compared everybody to Chinese players, I'd be unsatisfied with everybody in the league. Like that's not the way we can look at it, and that's just not the way we should genuinely develop what we have right now. These players are still solid in and of themselves. Like we don't have the player base right now to be able to compete with the top regions, and that's just the reality of it. But I think that's pretty much it for that. My number 3 team is going to be Dignitas. I know you thought I said it earlier, but
That's
I did not.
way too high.
Why do you say that?
That's way too high. 100 Thieves looks better than them.
They didn't have the same team, and the big transition for this team again is Dardoch on this team. I mean, Acadian showed what this team was capable of by taking over towards the later half of the split. They looked a lot better once Acadian got on.
They won 2 games out of their last 9. 2.
Yeah, I'm just saying that's more than they won before he came on. Is it not?
No, because they were what 5 and 9, right?
Did they only win 2?
They won around 5. I know they won around at least 6 games with the Griggs. But in the second half of the split, they only won 2 games. The one where they beat 100 Thieves, and there was that one game where they had to win to even make to even almost get to the playoffs, the tiebreakers and all.
Like they were playing better at the second half, regardless.
No, but before they beat that one,
I mean, I still think they played better in the second half. I'm still going to stick with that because I do think that was the case.
They've only won like 3 games though.
I don't care about their
what? That's like a 20% win rate though.
They had like a 30% win rate before, so it don't matter too much.
I guess. I mean,
I think they had a few more wins in the first half of the season, but again, I do think they looked slightly better when they were fast paced. Like I think maybe it just came to the fact that I think maybe the teams were playing better towards the later half of the season. I'm thinking that's probably what it was at this point. Because I do remember watching their games and thinking they looked more solid. But honestly, I never even put into my mind that they could have had a worse record. Is that really?
For a bit there, they only won like a single game out of the back end of the split. So they won 1, 2, they won 3 games in the back end of the split in spring. 3. They won against Immortals in that game they should not have won. Then they won. That game against TSM they shouldn't have won. They won that, and they beat Immortals previously. So they won basically 2 to 3 games in the back end of the split.
That's not even true. They won 4 right here. That's 4. That's 5.
Wait,
what you counted?
I'm going by week to week.
You're nuts. I literally counted the last 2 weeks they won 4 games.
That's a tiebreaker game.
Right. I thought it was right. You're making me think I'm insane. I was right.
They beat Immortals twice, so they beat TSM once, and that's it.
TSM, no, it's not. They beat CLG too.
That's 4 wins.
That's 4 wins. You told me they won twice, and I was like, "That's crazy." Doesn't mean that makes sense to me.
Hold on, let me go back.
Late half the region, at the second half of the season, they won 5 games. In the first half of the season, they won. Let's see. I'm gonna count them out because you kind of made me feel crazy.
There you go.
They won 4 games in the first half and won 5 in the second half. You're crazy.
What happened?
You're insane. Unless you count, they replaced him in the first. Was it? Let me see. Yeah, it was the first week. Was it not?
You gotta factor in win week around week 9. Around week 7 or 8 is when Acadian came in, right?
I'm trying to remember.
Okay, so the last 4 weeks of the split, they went 0-2, 2-0, 1-1, 1-1.
If he came in at week 7, he went 4-4.
They won literally 6 games.
I'm trying to remember. Well, yeah. I'm saying
no. Hold on. They didn't. They won. If you go in from that 1 week with Golden Guardians, that's 0-2. Then Immortals, they 2-0 them. Then they went 1-1-1. So, yeesh. I don't know. Just depends. But yeah, go on. Just,
positive with him. Excuse me?
They went 4-4?
4-4 with Acadian. You're crazy. Are you?
I swear they lost more.
I feel like I'm insane, and they went like disgustingly negative with Grig.
They went 5-9.
Yeah, they played so much better with him. You made me feel like I was insane.
Am I insane?
Yeah, I don't understand. They went positive with Acadian and went negative with Grig. So reality is they played a lot better once they had the faster paced jungler, and that's just the way it happened. Like Acadian stepped up the play style of this team, like not drastically. Again, they were still a terrible team all around. I don't want to pretend that they were decent, but at the same time, like it's not. It was pretty obvious that one of the things they were missing was because of the fact that there was an aggressive jungler. It all relied on Froggen's shot calling, which means they only want because again they have a good ADC. So if it gets to late game, they were going to win. But at the same time, these faster-paced teams could take advantage of the fact that they didn't know how to play in the early game. Like, Dignitas, with the addition of Dardoch, regardless of if he runs it down or not, I think consistently it's not going to always be the case. I don't think he's going to run it down more than he doesn't. I think he's going to run down less than he doesn't, is what I'm saying.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's the proper. You know what I'm going for regardless? It doesn't matter. I think that Dardoch is a great addition to this team because even if he plays poorly, objective control is still something one of his best qualities. I think that's something, again, that I think that he doesn't struggle with too often, just in terms of when they're not losing at the very least. Like, when he does give up dragons sometimes to gank for top, but that is just how the jungle works. That is just what something like that. So statistically, maybe the dragon stuff isn't in his favor, but I think that just is something of a reactionary jungler is going to be able to take advantage of that and get that in instead of that. But all around, I think it works on their objective control. It works on their ability to play around the map early game. Like, and it changes the transition from early game shot calling from Froggen to
all right, so I got it. I got it now. I figured it out.
Again, Dardoch, every team he does, he swaps off the shot calling to the other. Like when he was on Optic, he swapped his early, like he was the shot caller in the early game, and he swapped his early game shot calling over to big late game. And that's the reason they were so successful for a little bit with them. I think that is gonna be what's gonna be happening in this team. And with the addition of Dardoch, I think they're gonna have probably a better team fighting team all around because Johnson and Froggen are incredibly good team fighters. They're really good at playing. And like the biggest problem is still top lane with this team. I think there's no positives you could say for that. That is going to be the flaw on this team. That's why they're not anywhere close to second place. I think the only reason I don't put Team Liquid above them is because Impact was even worse. But at the end of the day, I think that is the positives of this team. I think they're going to play pretty. Their fast-pacedness is going to be beneficial to like the league. Or to how well they play in the league, and I think that's pretty much it for Dignitas for me.
Oh, sorry, I was looking at the wrong thing. So by week 5, their standings were 5-5. After that, it was 5-7 for week 6, 5-9 for week 7, then 6-10, and then after that they finished the split 8-10. So
right now, Dardoch, Acadian came in at week.
And they won.
They won the first 2 games, won the 3rd game with him, lost the 4th game with him, and won 3 straight with him. That was that, and then they lost the last game in the tiebreaker. Remember? And
yeah, so they won about 5 games roughly with Acadian, right?
4. They won 4 and lost 4.
Yeah, like see, even with an aggressive jungler, it gets still hit or miss.
I agree with that to an extent. I think Acadian's just not that good. And on top of the fact he's not as aggressive as Dardoch is. And that's still, again, it showed the fact that they only lost that last spot. They should not have lost to Golden Guardians. They threw that game so hard, dude.
They were actually winning that game, yeah.
They that game, and that's the reason they didn't. I think that would that have put them in the playoffs? That would have put them in playoffs, correct?
Mm-hmm.
And he would have been 5-3 with the record with them, and they just threw it because they didn't play well in the late game. And I still think that is because of the fact, I think they picked an early game aggressive team comp, and that was the reason they weren't able to team fight properly. Because again, I think they picked like Renekton and Pantheon, like Victor and all this stuff that's really good early game against a team fighting comp. They had a big old wombo combo on what's it called side, and I think the draft is going to be
defining moment for whether or not this team can succeed.
Right,
But
so
I do think
you're ranking Dignitas at third place.
tell me a team that should be.
I'm not crazy, am I? I
mean,
make sure I heard that correctly.
Team Liquid, I don't see how you can really put them above anybody.
I don't see how you don't have 100 Thieves over them. That's what I'm crazy.
And I pointed
even
out
FlyQuest.
I pointed out the reasons pretty much on all of them. Is my.
I mean, what about
It could be, I could be wrong, but this is just how my perspective on how they've played the game recently.
That's totally justifiable, and that's just who you are.
So,
Damien boy, what's up, man? How you doing, bro? It's you got TSM. Holy crap, Damien boy, what was the ranking? Did I miss it? We are in our top 3 right now, aren't we? We're in top 3.
We're number 2.
Yeah, I'm in number 2. Okay, so my second place team is going to be TSM. I think they're going to have a big resurgence this split. I don't care.
I want to lay onto him what the previous rankings were.
All right, so yeah, go with yours then.
My rankings were Golden Guardians. No, it was sorry. What am I saying? It was Immortal, CLG, Golden Guardians. Who else was it? Who did I go after that? Was it 100 Thieves? I think.
Yeah.
And then I went.
EG,
FlyQuest, Team Liquid, Dignitas, and now we're at TSM and then Cloud9. I mean, I think that's pretty much it.
Mine is Immortals. Mine is Immortals, Dig, CLG, Golden Guardians, 100 Thieves, EG, FlyQuest, TL, and now we're at TSM, which I think is going to be the second place team because there's a lot going into this. So also, if we didn't go over certain storylines or narratives, I'll just address that after the rankings over. So TSM coming into the spring split was, I mean, I thought they were going to be second place. I thought they had the best roster pretty much on paper, but well, it did not turn out that way. But I think with this roster, they have a lot more stronger firepower in their team. You have Doublelift, who is stronger than Kabe, and I think that one bad split Doublelift has had in the past literal 10 does not indicate how strong he actually is. I think he'll bounce back. You also have Bjergsen, who still played pretty well all split long. He was, third best mid laner? That's fine. Then you also have Broken Blade, who's top 3 top laner. That's fine. You have Spica. If he is literally the 6th best jungler, that's okay because he'll just be what Grig is, and they can just
6th best jungler. That's a step up from Spica. I'd like to know who you're giving them because that's not.
If he is like the 7th or 6th best jungler, if he's the 7th or 6th best, he can be a facilitating jungler that can play through the lanes. All he has to do, he doesn't have to be a carry. All he has to do is basically funnel resources into who's winning.
With TSM right now, first of all, even if Dardoch played as poorly as people say, he pushed the objective, that he pushed the pace of the game regardless, and that's something Spica is not going to do. Anybody who thinks Spica is going to push the pace of the game is incredibly wrong. I think all around, I think they're a better team now because their problems are not even with a fast-paced early game. They could never win the game because their mid-game to late-game transition was so terrible because, again, if you look at some of the things they did, miscommunication was probably one of the least bit of their problems. Like, they needed a secondary shot caller on that team, and I think that Doublelift is going to provide that. At the very least, they need another voice in there to kind of contribute to who's going to be shot calling. Like, Dardoch
You have Biofrost, who's also really strong, too. So you have TSM at second place, too, don't you?
I mean, I think that he's an incredibly good player. I mean, I think this team in general is pretty solid. But at the same time, it's hard for me to say that they're any it's hard for me to say they're substantially better because their mid game's gonna be better. I think the mid game literally couldn't have been worse. The mid game can't be worse, and they're putting somebody who actually contributes to communication in the mid game to late game into the function and replacing Dardoch. I think they're substantially going to decrease how fast paced they are in the early game. I think their gold lead is not going to be second place anymore. It is probably going to be fourth. I think they're going to be behind. I think they're going to be behind Golden Guardians. I think they're going to be behind what is it? The other team. They're going to be behind Dignitas early game pressure. I think they're going to be behind the Evil Geniuses maybe. There's a few teams I think are going to be faster paced than them in the split because they're switching out probably their most aggressive early game player. But at the same time, I think all around this still benefits them because I don't really care about the Dardoch situation. They needed Doublelift on this team. If they kept Dardoch, I would have preferred that. That would have been even better for me, and I would probably put them at a more solidified number 2.
But right now, slowing down the pace of the game, I mean, that's just genuinely what happens when you put Dardark on Doublelift on teams, is teams slow down. They never have been fast-paced. He's never been on a fast-paced team, and he's going to be one of the main shot callers on this team. Even with the slow down pace of the team, like, at the very least, they don't lose the game because they forget what the map does. Like, it seemed like all around the plate, like if you saw some of the things that 5-man dove top when they were on the inhib turret pushing inside of the FlyQuest series, like, still one of my biggest problems. They should have kept Dardark. I'm going to say that every time. No one else is going to agree with me. That if they had kept Dardark, this would have been somebody who I think, if they put it together, could have done well at Worlds. They could have competed with Cloud9 if they kept Dardark. But, like, I still think Cloud9 would have won regardless. They could have, at the very least, done something. But now I think that they're definitely probably still going to get second place. But I think that the difference, the rift between them and Cloud9 is still going to be significant. And I think that not only that, I think that the rift between them and the international scene is a little bit bigger than it was before, because jungle is the single most important role inside of every single one of the successful teams. Like, they have some, the jungle always plays in a functional role. Like, Jankos is the most aggressive. Like, he's the pace pusher of G2. Selfmade is the pace pusher of Fnatic. Like, all of these,
pushes Origin.
like, all of these teams push the pace. Like even Mad Lions with Shadow. Like,
Blabber pushes Cloud9.
No, but
oh my god! Oh my god!
Like, all of these successful teams besides Cloud9 have solid junglers who actually push the pace of what their team needs to do successfully in the region, like, or like just not even the region, in the international scene. And that's something that, like, as much as I don't want to say it, I think that Dardark is a step, like, I do really want to say it. Dardark is a gigantic step up from Spica, even when he's playing poorly, because he exists in the early game. Like, high pressure games, Spica will. If Spica turns it around, you know what? I will literally, you guys, I don't really care what you guys can make a bet on that, and I'll let you guys choose what I do about it.
You're gonna eat beans. You know what those are? Not the beans you're thinking of. You're gonna be eating some beans.
I'm not letting you choose because you're gonna make me do weird sexual favors, and I don't want that. So
what? No, how is being sexual? What the fuck?
I don't trust you. But
it's coming from Walmart. It's a party game.
If you can make an argument where Spica is not bottom 3, if this doesn't happen in the split, I will take back everything I said about him, because I expect a bottom 3 jungler out of him. And if I'm wrong, I'm completely okay with it, because I prefer if TSM is
We're going to play this live stream at 2 hours and 6 minutes. Everything he said, and if we're gonna make him eat some beans.
Whatever that means, okay.
Except no hot beans. Those are hot beans, and I'm not eating those myself because that's disgusting. See, where I was going with TSM is that you have a theoretical upgrade because you are factoring in the last split to this split performance for Doublelift. I still think he is one of the best ADCs in the league still. What the fuck? Hold on. Can you just talk to them for a moment?
Okay. I think he's about to die. What's going on right there? There's some scary people outside his house. I'm gonna make it. I don't know. Yeah, he's literally walking outside. What's happening, dude? Okay, so all around, I think the big thing about TSM should be second team if they kept Dardark. They are still the second team. They're still the thing about it is this team is still probably better than it was last split. I think they are still a better team than they were last split. Like, I think that's all around the case, because TSM, again, with even their high aggressive, did they change their coaching staff? Do you think TSM actually changed something that should have been changed? Come on. What are you thinking? Or they made a positive change? But I don't even think they
TSM making positive changes, like lol, like what the fuck?
I think all around, I think TSM still is a stronger team than they were last split. But at the same time, I don't know by how much, and I don't know how well it translates into a lot of the things, because their goal is to go to Worlds. I think they're going to go to Worlds, but at the same time, like, even if they try and go to Worlds,
jungle is so pivotal though. Like,
they're not going to succeed there without a good jungler. I mean, Spica. Again, I'm just going to leave myself. Spica's already decided he's on this team. I'm going to leave myself open to being surprised by him. I don't think it's going to happen.
Oh, you'll be surprised because he's playing Saturday. After Saturday's over, we'll do another live stream after week 1, and we'll judge his week 1 performance.
That just sounds good to me.
But
I mean, it's
all
this
around,
week. It's this week, so he better play good for your opinion of him to be valid. But then you're also factoring in week 1 of performances. So,
yeah. I mean, all around, I'm not too hyped on Spica, but who knows?
but it's just that I still think TSM with the addition of Doublelift, and if Doublelift bounces back, they're gonna have some of the best players in the league, and that is still Doublelift is still stronger than all the ADCs below him. Bjergsen is almost better than all the mid laners below him. Broken Blade is better than mostly every single top laner below him, outside of Someday and
What does
Licorice.
below him mean?
Basically, he can match up with anybody and still win overall. So you still have that. You still have a really strong aggressive laner who can play either weak side or top side. You still have very strong. The thing with TSM is like the team fighting is bad too. Like the thing is that I think they'll be better at specific things than Cloud9. And obviously, as you guys didn't know, Cloud9's our first place team. If Cloud9 is not your first place team, you are trolling and you actually probably are high as hell. I don't see how they even don't win the split. So going to Cloud9, they have pretty much, in my personal opinion, most of the best players in the league. Blabber, top 3 jungler. Niski, top 3 mid laner. Licorice, top 1 top laner. Sven, best ADC. Vulcan, best support. How do they lose the split? People were canceling games on them because they beat them that hard. If they lose the split, holy shit, that's horrible.
I'm going to disagree with a few of your rankings of the positions.
Was Blabber not top 3?
Okay, so I'm just
You're going to say Closer and Dardoch and Blabber. They're still top 3.
I'm not going to say Dardoch. You know what? He might have been the top 3 jungler, I guess. I don't think he is top 3 jungler, actually. But I do think he performed to a top 3 jungler specifically this
Niski, Power Vivo, Bjergsen, those are like the top 3 mid laners. And if you want to you can't throw in Froggen. I will not accept Froggen in that.
I don't care what you say about just purely as a mid laner, Froggen was incredible.
Not this split though.
Just definitely this split. He played really
well. The same way he played last split.
I'm saying it wasn't bad. It's just he shouldn't be the shot caller. That's the only problem that I have with Froggen.
Maybe Senna will choke.
Just not even close. Gap is so big. That is the status right now. I would like to see how Dardoch changes. I'm not Dardoch. Not Dardoch. Doublelift changes the dynamic of TSM because that's really the only hope we have of Cloud9 that is not blowing everybody else out of the water.
Like they literally curb stomped everybody. The only team to beat them is TSM, and they had was considerably a weaker roster last split. So. You know, you don't have to give them that. And it's also like they have pretty much the best players in every single position. And they all play so well together. Like Blabber is doing something, then Niski follows up, then Niski does something, Blabber does it. Licorice is the best weak side top laner. And usually weak side is considered a bad thing. And if he's making the most of a bad situation, like there was that game where Huni played Lucian, and obviously Licorice played weak side so well, he made Huni, who got the counter pick, look like trash. So, you know, I don't see how anybody doesn't have Cloud9 in their number 1 spot. Like, you must be trolling. Like, there's no way on this God Green's earth you're going to convince me TSM is better. Not even close. Or Team Liquid.
I mean, I'm just saying, there's really, like, just based off what we've seen this year, there's no argument for Cloud9 not being first.
They almost went 18-0.
I mean, do I think they're going to be as down as they were last split? Probably not. I mean, I don't think it's going to carry over as well because I do think some of the teams are going to improve. And I'm really just hoping that's the case because Cloud9 is not as good as the rest of the international teams. Like they shouldn't be this dominant in our region. Like it's just incredible. Like I do think they can compete with a lot of the international teams, but they are not. That just shows how weak the region is. Even if IG was over here, if Invictus Gaming was over here, the gap would be bigger probably. But at the same time, like it's like. That we would have only one good team at the same time. It's not how good Cloud9 is. It's about how bad the rest of the region is. I
don't agree with that. I can't agree with that.
I didn't even make an argument yet. Literally, you don't even know what I'm saying. I'm not calling Cloud9 bad. I'm saying I don't care about how good Cloud9 is. The situation right now is the rest of the region is bad, and there's not enough competition for us to really say that. What's it called? There's not enough competition for us to really be able to put that second team up at Worlds. Like really all we have right now is Cloud9. And that's the reality of it. I think that when we go to Worlds, we're going to get embarrassed all around in Cloud9 if they don't do
what's any different. Your expectations are a little too high there. Like I told you, What's any different than last year than getting embarrassed? We've been getting embarrassed like almost every single year outside of like maybe 2016, 2014.
2016, even though they did poorly, I think they looked solid. I think they looked like a good team, and they were like G2 and all those teams that made it out past them weren't better than them. Like
It was only HGK that made it out.
I'm just saying, like all those teams that did better than them is what I'm saying.
Mm-hmm.
Like all around, I think that it's not about results always, but at the same time, I'd like to see Cloud9 have to struggle a little bit because unless Cloud9 is somehow the best team in the world by far, they're not going to be as dominant as last split, because everybody else in the region should be improving to a point. It should be improving to an extent. They should lose a few more games, and you should want to see that. Well, you shouldn't want to see that, but at the same time, you should. Like, I don't know how to say it.
If they go 16-2, I think we're still gonna, it's not even that much big a difference. They lost one more game than they did last week,
which means that they probably lost them. There's probably another team that probably has like 12 wins, 13. Like it's just like they did well against Cloud9 and they beat everybody else. That's just the reality of what it is. Like Cloud9 loses a few more games, but the gap between them and second place closes a little bit, maybe. Like that's what we're hoping for.
But even if Cloud9 is super dominant, I would still like a solidified second and third best team.
I don't even care about third. Just like we never send 3 good teams. Just send a second good team. We don't do that either.
People keep saying NA gets embarrassed at Worlds. I mean, that happens all the time. So I don't know what's the big difference this time around. Like what has changed?
They've had a few good, not embarrassing years. Let's not pretend that Cloud9, the NA has always been embarrassing, but at the same time,
it's very few far in between. Like more or less so, it looks bad. That's just kind of what I was saying. Like more or less so, it looks bad, and I think that people are like expecting something that's just not there, you know. But I do believe that TSM and TL will be stronger this split, though. I just can't believe a team with Doublelift is going to be bad again.
I'm not going to give Team Liquid the credit. Like, I mean, again, I put them at 4th place, but that is just hopeful. That's wistful thinking at this point. They have to actually improve. They can't just play. If they play the way they did with Tactical, they're not going to make it to playoffs. They won't make it to playoffs, but they'll get 8th place to 7th place. They can't just play the way they played with Tactical. They have to improve past that. Tactical just has to be a solid foundation for rebuilding this team's mentality, rebuilding the way they play, and actually changing the way they played from last split.
What if they played like? What if Tactical was as good as like Cody's son?
I don't care if he's good as. I mean, the problem isn't about good or bad. The problem is about the rest of the team. And like they literally have Teddy in the bot lane, but if the rest of the team doesn't improve, they're not going to make it to Worlds. They're not going to make it because the reality is the rest of the team degraded so much, like mechanics-wise, mentality-wise, that
Teddy. Where did Teddy come from?
I just put a random good ADC in there.
Oh, okay. My brain is mush.
Like all around, like even if they had these good players, like the rest of the Impact needs to play better. Core JJ needs to step it back up. I mean, Broxah doesn't have to really step it up. I'd be fine with him playing the way he did before, but it's just like he's going to look worse if he doesn't have good players around him. Like, all around, I'm not extremely hyped on them because even if they bounce back, they're not going to be as good as last year's Team Liquid. So I'm just hoping another team takes their spot at Worlds because I really don't want to see them at Worlds. I don't think they're going to do well. I don't think they're going to be fast paced. So like all around, like maybe they're a slightly faster, but worse version of last year's Team Liquid. And I think that's the ceiling they have.
I mean, they don't have Doublelift, so I think this opens up great things that they could do. Like Doublelift is a player where you have to play towards him, like Froggen, you know, like Bjergsen. You have to play towards these players, otherwise you don't. Like that's their identity is Doublelift. Their identity was Doublelift for those 4 past splits that they won. So that's just. Yeah.
Well, let's see whether or not that was not the identity, the successful identity. Maybe that was what brought them success, was playing around double. Like
and you have to play what you're good at. That's what the LPL teams do. They play towards their star players.
I'm just saying, I'm not disagreeing with that. JackeyLove and Teddy over other ADC. I think Deft is definitely up there. I mean, I honestly, again, I put JackeyLove last year probably above this year's JackeyLove. I think he played incredibly well during the summer split. I don't think he's played poorly this split. I mean, he's actually played really good this split. I'm not going to take away from him, but I don't want to say that the difference between JackeyLove is like, what's it called? Like, I think that what he provides to this, I don't like his mages as much as I do like Defts and stuff, and I don't think he's better than ADCs in Deft. Like, I'm not going to put JackeyLove above Deft this season, but I definitely think that he's the top tier of ADCs is probably JackeyLove, Teddy, and Deft right now. And then I'd put maybe right below that would be, what's his name? What's that guy's name?
I don't know.
That guy from Stupid Genji. You know who he is.
Freak, Ruler.
Ruler. If we put
Yeah.
Ruler.
Sometimes you guys go off on tangents. I was like, what are you guys even saying?
Like, Viper moved to Hanawa Life. Hanawa Life. Yeah, let's move Viper off of FlyQuest onto there. I like that.
Not Viper.
I'm just gonna say Viper was incredibly good in what's it called, and that's gonna push them from 7th place straight up to 6th place.
You know what would have made them better? Getting Viper and Tarzan. I think people. I mean, they might actually. That would have probably pushed them towards playoffs.
That Viper puts does not like it doesn't make them even close to the top 4 teams, and it might put them above KT, but I still don't think it does. I mean, like, they're not better than Damwon with that change. They're not better than SKT. They're not better than Genji or Dragon X for sure. Those are 4 teams that are for sure still better than them. And KT honestly was a surprise to make it to playoffs in the first place, so I could see them maybe taking the very last spot, but I don't.
And now KT have Smeb again.
And we'll see how that works out. But I don't know. I don't know if the Viper change is going to be very impactful.
So yeah, as to just go over my rankings, yeah, I think I made a pretty good ranking list. I just think that nothing IMT did last split shows me they improved at all. They lost 3 straight games where they could have gone to playoffs. They looked unimpressive. Dignitas, they need to get better at anything. Then you have CLG. Then they have CLG, and they all they have is pole belter. That's good enough.
You know what you are?
What?
You're stupid.
Yeah. And what do Dignitas have? Oh my God, Viper and Afro
all week until Dignitas ends up being 9th place. Watch this.
Dignitas started last split 3-0 and then completely fell off a cliff for almost half the first half of the split.
They didn't have They literally had Grig in the jungle. I don't want to hear that.
Whoa! What are you saying?
I think Grig is very bad.
Grig is the only reason why they lost almost half of their games moving forward.
I think that he's not the main reason, but he does change the way they have to play the game. It's not been see the specific play styles benefit teams more often than other play. Like, I think the marginal difference between Santorin and somebody like Xmithy was not gigantic. I think Xmithy was not as good as Santorin, but if you put them both on Dignitas is going to move up 4 spots in comparison to have it. Like,
but I understand having Dig over someone like 100 Thieves with Cody Sun and Someday.
Again, I told you my problems with them. I think the one-dimensional play style, which they're able to play, because they can't play through both of them at the same time. That's the problem with
Let me see.
This team. They can't play through both of them at the same time. You can't play through Cody Sun and play through at the same time, because Cody Sun requires specific comps to play around him. Like, I mean, that's all around. That's my interpretation of how this region's gonna, or this team's gonna happen.
But it's fine. It's fine. You know, I think that we're gonna be seeing a resurgence in TSM. I think that the addition of Doublelift is gonna be a big mental and a big on the riff boost that they've needed for a while. You're getting possibly Sven's rival? That's what you want to say, right? Sven's rival is gonna be back, so that's gonna be some competition for Cloud9. I think Doublelift will be his competition. I think that Bjergsen will be a little bit more better than Niski was last split, though. So I think you have a good chance of watching TSM actually perform pretty well. But I'm trying to look up the schedule right now.
TSM literally just could not work out. Like, it's possible they just don't work out. And that's the big thing.
That's true. And we look like crazy people for putting them this high. Is that, like, if we take out the nameplates of last split, where would you even place TSM? If you didn't have nameplates on TSM, would you place them like at 6th place?
You see that was on what's it called when you're putting him on TSM when he only had 2 solid games. If there was no history behind the names, I would literally put them out of playoffs almost. Like, because are we ranking TSM just because it's TSM and we don't want to be wrong if they do bad? But to be fair, they did play pretty bad last split. They played bad last. They didn't play that bad. They just replaced some of the more important pieces to their play style, and that's just what it is. That's just how life functions sometimes. Because I think, again, even though I really did think Dardoch should have stayed on this team, this change they made was definitely for the best.
All right, so that's pretty much it. I have to get up and go to work in a little bit, a while from now. But it's like I got about an hour of free time. I got to get some videos done on my main channel. But you guys have been pretty happy with the live stream so far. So yeah, I don't know if the live streams will be weekly. This was just because the off season is just the off season, and it's hard to do a lot of stuff when the season is going on because there's just the season's going on. There's a lot to do. Like I have a lot of regions to watch. Like, I have so much stuff to analyze in players, see who's the best, and good lord, it's a lot of work. It's not like work, but it's a lot to be on top. Like so that's why I always try to put a little bit of a actual thinking into my rankings because these are things that I've seen for a while, and it's hard to just be like, well, yeah, I'll just glance it over because they got one good piece. That just because you get one good piece of something doesn't mean it just fixes everything. Like you have to factor that in to a certain extent.
It might change the dynamic, like how they play the game. And
that's a fair statement too. See, that's what I factor in too.
Okay, first of all, don't say legs because there's only one leg up here. You're impressed by it. Look at it. I'm always trying.
That leg. Oh my god. But I think that Cloud9 wins both splits. I think they might get challenged more. People need to stop clinging to that. How do you go from a split that bad to saying they're going to get challenged? That's like saying that Superman would lose to Krillin. When Krillin trains, he'll be able to beat him. That's retarded.
That's like saying 2015 Spring Split CLG that did really well on the international stage is going to come back and get demolished.
They didn't do well on the international stage.
They literally almost won.
They did not. They lost. They lost to Pain Gaming. They lost to Good Tigers. They won literally 2 games. What are you saying?
RNG at stupid MSI.
That's 2016 CLG. You said 2015.
I said 16.
Oh my!
I'm 90% sure I said that. Spring 2015. Oh, I did say 15. You're right.
My lord.
16 CLG coming back. You already knew who I was talking about based off the words I said. Shut up.
Or I mean, you do have TL. TL did well against IG.
I'm just saying, all around teams can dramatically fall off a high based off of mentality of the team. I'm not going to say that Cloud9 is guaranteed first place because it's not. But at the same time, if we have to base it off how they played recently, I don't see a way that they do lose. But it's possible.
I don't see how you go from that bad a split from players to seeing Cloud9 can get challenged. I think that's a pipe dream. You have to look at it like a pipe dream so far. I mean, yeah, in theory, it's nice for them to have competition. That's great, and I'm happy that if they do. But looking at how the last split played out, it's more or less so something I'm not sure if I'm going to see that yet. I think the first few weeks are going to be super dominant again. I think we'll see them improving toward the later end, the back end of summer. But that's just how I see things. But yeah, that's it. That's it. Hopefully you guys saw the podcast today. I don't know how they did it in views. YouTube's views have been telling me whack stuff. They'll say one of my videos will have like 1 view in like 3 hours. Like that does not make any sense whatsoever. But yeah, that's just pretty much it. LCS Summer Split 2020 starts this week actually, so I wanted to make sure that I got the power rankings out of the way. And that's it. You have anything else you want to say?
I don't want to talk to you anymore. I'm good.
Oh, you're mean. All right, guys. Peace. Hashtag C9 win. They're going to win the second trophy. You guys will bow at C9's power, and our wrath will be swift over the league. Lord Sven will murder all of you in your sleep on the rift.
I hate you.
You used to be cool. What happened to you?
I was never cool. Shut up.
Oh,